FX, glad to have you along the Gatorade Duel at Daytona. Big crowd on hand, and part of that crowd, our pit crew, headed by Steve Burns down there on the track. Hey, Steve, how are you?
Hey, Chris, we're doing great. 57 teams and drivers made the pilgrimage to Daytona a week ago, but the journey started months back. Building race cars, numerous trips to the wind tunnel to check aerodynamics, then testing down here in Daytona in January. Back to the shop to go over data where one crew chief told me they measured gains in the thousandths of a second. But 14 drivers will pack up and go home by the end of this day. Their share of a $17 million purse, their dreams shattered. Among the stories we'll follow today, one powerhouse team looking to reestablish dominance on these big tracks, others simply desperate to make it into the 500 field. We begin with those stories and others with the editor of Speedway Illustrated magazine, Dick Berggren.
In a tale of two brothers, Mike Wallace and his younger brother Kenny both hope to race their way into the Daytona 500 in this event. Mike will start about midfield. His little brother's going to have to start in the back of the pack because they had engine trouble, had to change an engine. That puts him in the rear. They had hoped to hook up together and run to the front. Since they can't, at least initially, Mike has talked to just about everybody in this field and tried to call in whatever markers he could. Hey, please run with me. Pair up with me. But Kenny's got a very fast car, and it may be little brother that gets both of them into the Daytona 500. To Matt Yoakum.
Dick, when it comes to restrictor plate racing, the DEI Armada is usually the team that steals most of the headlines. In fact, the cars from the Dale Earnhardt Incorporated stable have won 11 of the last 16 points-paying restrictor plate races. But Speedweek's 2005 hasn't gone according to plan. In fact, Saturday night in the shootout, Junior struggled with engine woes. Then all three cars struggled in qualifying on Sunday. But yesterday afternoon, confidence back to high, as all the cars from the DEI stable had good practice sessions. In fact, Junior told me not only does he have a good car today that can go to victory lane, but he has a great car and looking ahead to Sunday and winning back-to-back Daytona 500s. Chris?
All right, thanks, Matt. And guys, and from our corporate headquarters, the Hollywood Hotel, just above the track, FX welcomes you to the 5th season of NASCAR on the Fox family of networks. For all of us here, I'm Chris Myers, and thanks for being with us. The first Gatorade Duel at Daytona, and for those of you expecting the traditional Gatorade Twin 125s, as is the case with all of NASCAR these days, things are bigger and better. 2 races, each one 60 laps, 150 miles. All your favorite drivers will be on the track today, finding out where they're going. And my favorite partner, former crew chief Jeff Hammond, is with. Michael Chiklis couldn't make it, so Jeff is here with us.
Oh.
And, you know, I kid because I care. Nice to see you back here on FX. All right, so what's the difference, 125, 150? How does that affect what we're going to see today?
Big, really 2 words, pit strategy. What you're looking at right now is these crew chiefs are trying to figure out whether to take these 60 laps, do 30 laps, come get tires, or whether they stretch it to the fuel stop window and then come in and get 4 tires. And who your dance partner is has a big effect as far as this race is concerned.
All right, guys like Dale Jarrett, Jimmy Johnson, they know where they're going to be. So what's the difference between guys who are in and worried about position versus the desperateness of those who just are trying to get in?
I think the key word there is the desperateness. These guys realizing that they've only got one opportunity left to get in the Daytona 500, so picking that right person. Right there, as you take a look at Hermie Sadler, he realizes he's got to go with a guy like Kenny Wallace and work his way into the front to be assured of getting into this race.
You heard about names like Kenny Wallace, Mike Wallace, also Martin Truex Jr., Robbie Gordon. They have to run well to get in. Those that already made it in, Jason Leffler, Boris Said, Mike Skinner, and John Andretti. A big day of racing here on FX. Let's now head down to the track for those familiar words you often hear in racing, the command to get things going.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, will you please welcome back the Vice President of Sales for the Dollar General Store, Mr. Rick McNeely, for those most famous words in motorsports.
Gentlemen, start your engines!
On so many cars, so few openings here. To help explain the ground rules, we're going to head up to the broadcast booth with Mike Joy. Mike, even Tony Stewart said that the new arrangement is so confusing. Even he doesn't understand it. He's in it. I think he speaks for many. Can you help us clarify as the day unfolds here?
Well, he's not alone, Chris, but he's one of the 35 teams locked into the Daytona 500 by being in the top 35 in car owner points. These drivers have to race their way into the big dance. They were not fast enough in qualifying Sunday to secure a spot, so in each race there are 2 positions available for these drivers to race their way in. Hi everybody, Mike Joy, Larry McReynolds, Darrell Waltrip. Larry won 3 in a row of these. Darrell's won 5 of them. They're tough, but they've always been a part of making the Daytona 500. In 1959, the 100-mile races went to Shorty Rollins and Bob Wellborn. But for the last 35 years, we've had the same system and the same distance, 125 miles, top 15 finishers, counting the front row starter, make the race. Now that's all changed with locking in the top 35 in owner points. So let's start with the outs, then we'll go to the ins. Larry, if you're crew chief on one of those cars we just showed in the graphic that has to race their way into the Daytona 500, how is your race different than it was last year?
Well, what you have to remember, we have 28 cars roughly in each race. But if you're one of those teams, what you have to make yourself understand, especially your driver, it's a race within a race. You're only racing 8 other cars, and it's your job as a crew chief and the spotter, no matter where you're running, to keep that driver posted. This is where you're at versus those 8 competitors, regardless if you're running 5th or you're running 15th. But remember, as you heard Jeff Hammond say, these guys will have to make a pit stop. And if you're not running up near the front of those cars, that's when maybe as a crew chief, you're going to get desperate and you're going to make a gamble call on pit road. And then when you tell that driver 10 to go and you're not one of those top 2 cars, that's when you're going to expect him to get in desperation mode.
All right, Darrell, you're in one of those 35 cars that's locked into the 500 field based on last year's car owner points. So how will you run your race today?
Well, there's always people that have been in and always been people that have been out. So the racing really isn't going to be all that different. The thing about today, though, is I'm going to try to make a few friends. I'm going to start thinking about Sunday and working with guys and seeing who I can work with, because my focus should be information for this car looking forward to Sunday. And I'm going to leave it up to the crew chief to make all those decisions in the pit about when to pit and that kind of thing. But information, and then what Hammond always used to do, take me up in the truck and say, you see that backup car up there? That's that car that you hate. So if you don't want to drive it Sunday and be miserable for 500 miles, be real careful today.
Okay. 150 miles of tension twice. The Gatorade Duel at Daytona. Coming up, Chris.
Thanks, guys. So 2 races in one day here on FX. In race 1, the youngest driver, 19-year-old Kyle Busch, and the oldest, Morgan Shepherd, at age 63, both trying to accomplish the same type of thing. And the state with the most drivers in today's duel, California, with 9 drivers, Jimmy Johnson among those. And you know it's time to go racing. You can tell by just looking into the eyes of the drivers.
Good afternoon. I'm Tom Fox with the Gatorade Company. I'd like to welcome you today to the Gatorade Duel at Daytona. Gatorade's been involved in this great sport for 30 years, fueling such great champions as Bobby Allison in the old Gatorade 88 car, Darrell Waltrip, right up until the great stars of today like Matt Kenseth, Ryan Newman, and Jimmy Johnson. I'd like to wish all the drivers good luck today as they race in these 2 truly unique races, the only time all year that they'll be racing to determine their starting position in the great race on Sunday, the Daytona 500. On behalf of the Gatorade Company, I want to thank you all for tuning in and enjoy the races.
FX welcomes you back to Daytona, the Gatorade Duel at Daytona from America's special sporting venues, the Daytona International Speedway. I can't think of another sporting event. I've been to quite a few where 100,000 paying customers on a Thursday afternoon come out to check out racing. But that's what we have today with Jeff Hammond, Chris Myers, with our Ford Cutaway car rotating behind us just below the Hollywood Hotel. And this to illustrate, Jeff, the concern about tires. It's been an issue this week. It could be today. What will the effect be for drivers and their crews?
Well, the big thing right now is mentally. A lot of the guys are really concerned about the tire situation. They've had some problems, and what we're really looking at right now is trying to take care of this tire. You want to worry about this tire patch right here, looking exactly like it does on our cutaway car at the end of the run, Chris. Some of the guys have experienced problems, but Goodyear has addressed the problem. They feel like they got it taken care of. They've advised the crews that, hey, work on your chassis. Don't let the air pressure down too much, and make sure your camber gauge are correct, guys, to take care of your Goodyear tires today. That's going to be a key if you want to get to victory lane.
They'll want to work on it here for the Daytona 500. Can you make that spin around again?
Oh, yeah, we can keep her going.
Let's go back up to Mike upstairs. Good. We're just rolling. That's good.
Thanks, Chris. Here are some of the issues during practice. Kyle Busch losing a tire casing at speed. There's a look at the inner liner inside that tire. It's separated. The tire overheated, half the tire not very worn. And then Greg Biffle had a tire separation as well. Larry, today it's a little cooler than yesterday. That may help. It's still much warmer than it was in testing.
Yeah,
during January.
It's not a lot cooler, though. It was 77 degrees yesterday, ambient temperature, when these guys were having some problems. But I do want to make note that when Kyle Busch had that tire problem, I talked to his crew chief, Alan Gustafson. That tire was actually cut by a fender. That was not really a tire problem.
Here's our Gatorade starting grid with Dale Jarrett on the pole, Jeff Gordon alongside, Jason Leffler in a new ride with the Nextel Cup champ Kurt Busch. Ricky Rudd is back. He'll start from row 3, and Elliott Sadler, Jarrett's teammate, in the 3rd row. Kyle Petty was the fastest qualifying Dodge along with Mike Skinner. Greg Biffle in a Ford, a former July winner here, and last year's Rookie of the Year, Casey Kane. Kyle Busch, last year's Busch Series runner-up, Jamie McMurray in a Dodge. Mike Bliss has a new ride for 05, and Carl Edwards in a Roush Ford. Mike Wallace has to race his way in. Ryan Newman is locked into the 500 field. Kerry Earnhardt, the older of Dale's 2 sons, and Michael Waltrip, a former 500 champion. Casey Mears had a strong finish to last season. Veteran Ken Schrader, a former Daytona pole sitter. Dale Earnhardt Jr. deep in the field with Kenny Wallace. Then Johnny Sauter's Dodge, Hermie Sadler's Ford, and Travis Quaffle from out of the Truck Series, a rookie in a Dodge with stuntman Stanton Barrett. Ageless Morgan Shepherd back with 2-time Busch Series champion Randy LaJoie, and Jeffrey Bodine, a former winner of the 500. These are the drivers that will have to try and race their way in. Now, there are 2 other drivers in this group in this race, Jason Leffler and Mike Skinner. They're assured of being in the 500 on their qualifying speeds. But if they finish in one of the first 2 positions of drivers not yet qualified, that will elevate other drivers into the field based on speed. It's complicated. We'll fill you in on that later, because we are set to go racing. Green flag in the Gatorade Duel at Daytona. And we're off for 150 miles.
Now, I'm going to anticipate that these guys will probably run side by side, 2 by 2 by 2. We found the other night that the bottom lanes seem to be the best when these guys are on fresh tires, but I bet you're going to see them run like 2 single file around here for several laps. These carburetor restrictor plate engines where the horsepower is down, it takes them almost a full lap to get up to speed.
And what you're trying to do at the back of this pack is just don't let them get away, because, man, you got to lift once or twice, and the first thing you know, that pack is long gone.
The drivers that are displayed in yellow on our crawl at the top of the screen are the drivers like Hermie Sadler in 66 that have to race their way into the field. They're not yet qualified for the 500.
And I didn't talk to very many drivers that were just absolutely thrilled with their car. Everybody's talking about being really, really loose. And then others were talking about that things are pushing like a dump truck. So nobody's real thrilled with their car.
Dale Jarrett leads lap 1. Jeff Gordon steams around the outside to take the lead at turn 1.
And I've been watching that Texaco car, the 42 car with Jamie McMurray. He has Carl Edwards in the 99 car behind him. They are trying to work a 3rd groove on the high side, and they've been making a little progress working that top groove.
And something you're going to see a lot of, and it just absolutely scares me to death every time they do it, is bump drafting. Bump drafting was always a technique we used going down the straightaways. Now guys have gotten it in their mind that they can do it in the turns, and that's ingredients for disaster.
And you heard that spotter saying right there, 3 wide. This racetrack is wide enough for 5 cars, but as these cars start bouncing around at 190 miles per hour, that makes it tough to run 3 wide.
Yeah, you get that wake turbulence.
Here is Steve Burns on 15th place Kenny Wallace.
Mike, I spoke to Kenny right before he got in the race car. He said he was nervous to the point that, quote, his guts were turned inside out. But he did say, I've got a good race car. I can't do anything stupid early in this race.
And we all know the woes that Dale Earnhardt Incorporated has had here this week with not running very fast on qualifying day. That's a DEI leased car with a leased DEI engine.
Right now, the Wallace brothers, Kenny in 00 and Mike Wallace in the 4, are in the 2 transfer spots for the 500.
Mike Wallace seemed to be in the 4 car, seemed to be pretty confident that he had a good enough car to race his way in.
One car did not make it to the green flag, and that was Jeffrey Bodine, a former 500 champion, so he will not have the opportunity to race his way into the 500.
Darrell, Kenny Wallace in the 00, I think he's put himself right in the position he wants to be in. He's behind his car owner, Michael Waltrip, in the 15. No, Michael was very happy with his car yesterday.
One of the few that was happy with his car, Michael.
Dale Jr. moves underneath Randy LaJoy, and he's going to bring Carl Edwards into 99. Oh, wait a minute, Edwards gets into LaJoy. Goodbye, LaJoy. Back up into traffic. And Kenny Schrader goes for a long slide, missing the inside wall.
Hold on to her, Schrader. Boy, he almost came back down and got that wall. Caution is out. What happened there was Carl Edwards was being sucked along by Dale Jr.
He had a run and got into Kenny Schrader.
You saw the 89, the green car of 63-year-old Morgan Shepherd. Had a lot of damage, headed to the garage. Won't make the 500, nor will Hermie Sadler, it appears.
Watch this. You see Junior, he's being pulled along. Actually, it's Randy LaJoy being pulled along, and Carl was trying to go with him. Carl's car picked up a pushed right up into Randy LaJoy, and boy, you can't be much luckier than that not to get T-boned. And Morgan turned trying to avoid him
and got
into Hermie. And Schrader is just all over the place trying to miss the end of the pit wall there.
LaJoy's sponsor, movie Curson, and so was his attempt to make the 500, it appears.
Boy, that close Stanton Barrett came to getting into Randy LaJoy. Stanton Barrett in the 92 car.
Well, now, wait a second. There's no damage to LaJoy's car. He is not cursed.
Has a little bit of left front fender damage.
Riding with Carl Edwards.
You're wide, you're in the middle. There you go. Keep on coming, keep on coming. Pushing is out.
Let's look back from Dale Jr.
Get behind it, Jim, coming to the yellow.
Darrell, I think the sign that Carl Edwards had picked up a push, you could hear him roll out of the throttle just a little bit on his own board.
Yeah, that's a roll.
1984, same spot on the racetrack. Randy LaJoy trying to make his first 500, spun at that same spot and flipped 3 times.
In just 3 days, NASCAR and Fox returns with the 47th running of the Great American Race. 43 drivers will flash in the fastest, fiercest, most high-powered sporting event in the world. Dale Jarrett on the pole trying to win another one. The Daytona 500 Sunday at 1 Eastern, 10 Pacific in high definition, only on Fox. And if you're up high out in Daytona here, you will have trouble hearing with the roar of the engines. These are the top 10 as we're under caution, getting ready to go green. We'll be back here in just a moment. Yep, glad to have you along with us. The Gatorade Duel at Daytona, race 1, coming out of that crash. Now, 2 of the drivers involved are guys who don't need to race their way in, Jeff Hammond, as we see from the beginning here. Carl Edwards, Randy LaJoy, Hermie Sadler, Morgan Shepherd, who's already now out of this race, and Ken Schrader involved.
Yeah, Ken Schrader, as we come, it looks like almost like, say, the 99 car of Carl Edwards went up the racetrack, got in a little joy. He did a great job of keeping it off the wall, but because of the smoke, all of a sudden there was Hermie Sadler. He bounces off the wall just about. Morgan Shepherd tags him really hard. You see Kenny Schrader spinning on the inside. Fortunately, he kept it off the wall. He's already in the 500, but for Hermie Sadler, he came down pit road along with Randy LaJoy. They made repairs to the car. They're going to go back, rejoin the field, and hopefully they'll be able to make a charge, maybe get the way up into the 500 yet.
LaJoy and Sadler needing to race their way in. Let's rejoin Mike, Larry, and Darrell.
Green, 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 green.
laps complete as they come by. Jeff Gordon was leading at the caution over Kurt Busch, Elliott Sadler, Jason Leffler, Casey Kane, Mike Skinner, Jamie McMurray, Dale Jarrett, Michael Waltrip, and Ricky Rudd. Two of those drivers are not in the top 35 in points, Leffler and Skinner. So if they get the 2 race-in spots, that would open up 2 spots based on qualifying speed, and they would go to Mike Wallace and Martin Truex. We'll see as this day plays out.
I'm going to tell you, the big mover in this race so far, I think, has to be Michael Waltrip in that 15 car. He started back in 18th position, and now he's worked his way up in the top 10, actually battling for position. Look how he pulls away from those guys right there as they go through turn 3 and 4.
All the help's on the bottom behind you, still about 3 or 4 back.
Dale Earnhardt Jr. has had a lackluster speed week so far. He's running 14th, Matt.
On the move, Mike Joy. In fact, his spotter, Steve Neal, told him that Greg Biffle, the 16 car, said, I will go wherever you want to go. We'll work our way to the front. And Junior responded, just tell him to go. I will push. We're going to have some good help behind us as well because Newman's back there.
Gosh, Darrell, those deals take about 30 seconds to put together and 3 seconds to come apart. Junior's already gone around the outside of Biffle.
Yeah, you can't make a deal. I mean, you got to take care of yourself. You know, you get a run, you got to go, baby. And if it leaves the guy that you made the deal with behind, I'll help you out later. It's not a deal.
Embarrassed by the results in qualifying. Tony Gibson, the car chief on the 15 car, told me yesterday that he had talked to Richie Gilmore up at the DEI shops. They've been working around the clock on their engine to find more horsepower. They also made adjustments to the drivetrain on this number 15 yesterday.
Yeah, but right now, I mean, even as good as his car was, he lost the draft off that lead pack. I'm talking about Michael falling back into the grasp of these other cars. Cars are just not fast on the straightaway from what I can see. Look like they're pretty good through the turn, but not real good on the straightaway.
Here comes Newman doing just what Matt alluded to, tucking up on Dale Jr. He threaded the needle between the yellow car of Kyle Busch, the 5, and the 16 of Greg Biffle to line up behind Jr. Wouldn't surprise me if those 2 cars together could get to the front.
And Newman was definitely the key to that whole equation working out when he decided to get back in line. But while these guys are running side by side right now, those top 5 or 6, they seem content right now to run single file. And when you run single file, you will pull away from a pack of cars running side by side.
Yeah, and if these guys back here all get, lined up a little bit, they'll chase that front back down. But one of the things that the guys don't like about this package, this small restrictor plate, you can race all day long in the middle of the pack. There's a lot of turbulence, a lot of draft, but you can't get up there and make a big pass like you'd like to.
Right now, the transfer spots, Jason Leffler has one of them, Mike Skinner the other. Dale Jarrett, the 500 pole sitter, right stuck in the middle.
And he's almost doing the same thing that he did in the Budweiser shootout the other night as it got pretty bouncy down there in turn 1. Remember, he started on the pole. He's all the way back to 16th position and losing more positions as we go through 1 and 2.
You know what? The thing about Jarrett's car is, I had a car down here that was aerodynamically really slick. It'd go really fast by itself, but it hated it in traffic. And his car gives that appearance to me. It's really fast by itself, but it doesn't like to be around other cars.
Dale Jarrett's the only driver in this race who knows where he'll start on Sunday. He'll start first. Matt?
During the first caution, Mike, he came on the radio and told his crew chief, Mike Ford, everything seems to be okay so far. 2 laps ago, he came out and said it really moves the front end off the corner. You can see him really working that wheel on the in-car.
And I want you to watch him. When he goes through the corner, watch how he locks up. Every muscle in his body tenses up. His head, everything about him just tenses up. That's what wears you out, restrictor plate racing. Plus, if you could see his eyes, he's glancing back behind him as much as he is ahead of him.
13 of 60 laps complete. At least 1 pit stop to come. We've had 1 caution flag so far when Randy LaJoie got turned around.
Now here's
here teammates team up. Now,
2 by 2 in your mirror now. 8-12 on the bottom. 20.
Darrell invented a new word Saturday night, and I like it. Co-opetition.
Yes, sir.
It's when competitors cooperate for common benefit. But this is different. Here are the 2 DEI cars that have been dominant at Daytona in years past. The 8 and the 15 linked up nose to tail.
That's teamwork there. competition is it can be anybody as long as it's helping somebody.
But now what happened in about 2 laps is those top 5 or 6 we were talking about a while ago, they decided to get a little racy. Now our lead pack of 6 cars is 21 cars within 2 seconds of each other.
Flirting with that yellow line, I know that.
Mike Skinner, Jason Leffler have the 2 transfer spots right now into the Daytona 500 with 14 laps complete. Laps complete in the first half of the Gatorade Duel at Daytona. Still Jeff Gordon leading Kyle Busch, Mike Skinner, Michael Waltrip, Elliott Sadler, Ryan Newman the top half dozen. But while we were away, Dale Earnhardt Jr. dropped from 7th to 14th after a big bobble up between turns 1 and 2.
Well, what happens here is that Tammy McMurray in the 42 car gets up behind Dale Jr. and starts bump drafting him down into turn 1. And I think he just got him in there faster than Dale Jr. really wanted to go. Don't see it there, but he pushed him a couple of times to get him.
Let's see it on board. Now this is on the straightaway, so this is fair game, right?
Coming down to turn 1, bump. A little more, bump. Now that picks up about 5 miles an hour going into that corner. And Jr. wasn't ready for it, and the car took off.
Matt?
Mike, all he told his team on the radio, it is almost spinning out. Now, Wednesday in practice, that's the one characteristic. Junior said the car is extremely fast, but it's a handful really loose, meaning the back end of the car wants to come around on him.
Well, Matt, we had a bird's eye view of that almost spinning out. But I tell you what, I'm going to go back up there to the front of the pack. Pretty impressed with the dodge of Mike Skinner, Bill Davis's number 23 car. He qualified back in 13th position. He just was patiently working his way up toward the front. But we've seen this with the Dodges. You see Ryan Newman back there in the 12. Those cars did not qualify very good. But we felt like when this racetrack got very slick, as it is today, these cars would handle good because they have good downforce in the aero part of them.
Mike Skinner won a qualifying race here in 2001. Dick Berggren on the leader.
Jeff Gordon today drives a brand new race car named Soldier, and it's handling very well. He has been quiet on the radio, has told the crew only that the car is a little bit loose when other people get close to him, and that it pushes a little bit off turn 2. Oil temperature 190, water 230. Steve?
Dick, 24-year-old Casey Kane in that 9 car just telling his team the back of the car is starting to get free, especially from the center of the corner, off the corner. Matt Yoakum.
Steve fading to the back, pole sitter for the Daytona 500, Dale Jarrett in the 88 car. He says, I'm trying to run high when I can, but I am just way too tight. Shades of what happened during Saturday night's Budweiser shootout. DJ struggling again.
Well, he knows where he'll start on Sunday, so this just becomes a 150-mile test session for Dale Jarrett.
But this is what happened to him in the Budweiser shootout. This is what's happening to him today. They've got to figure out why their car picks up that push and will not turn off the corners, because it seems to be pretty consistent. Just saw Dale Earnhardt Jr. in the 8 car waving his hand out the left window, I think trying to get maybe Casey Kane and that group lined up behind him where maybe they can work to the front. We're probably about 10 or 12 laps away from that ever-important pit stop.
And Dale Jarrett is doing the right thing. The car not right. It's early in this race. Still a long way to go. A lot of racing to do yet. Fade back. Take care of the car. We'll fix it when we come to pit road.
Chevy leads. Ford second. Dodge's third and fourth. Ryan Newman in 4th place. The one car on Saturday night in the Budweiser shootout that seemed to be able to move through the pack at will has caught the leaders.
And again, it was a different car in the Budweiser shootout, but I think we've seen this with these Dodges all week long. They're not fast by themselves, but when they get in a pack, Jeff Hammond, they seem to drive pretty good, especially as his tires start sliding around.
Larry, we've been talking about it all week long. This new Dodge Charger, they really worked on the balance of it, gave up a little bit of drag as far as making the car fast, but on the long runs, as we're seeing right now with Ryan Newman, that it's really coming into play, and the cars are looking really good. Talked to Jeremy Brickhouse, spotter on the 97 car for Kurt Busch, and he made the comment to several guys, and including myself, you better watch that 12 car. He's been bad fast in practice, and he's not letting anybody down so far. He's making his way to the front.
But, Jeff, this is where now we're within, I just mentioned, about 10 or 12 laps of that pit stop. Remember, this probably will be a 1 pit stop race. This is where that pit stop can be so critical, a lot like in the Budweiser shootout. mistakes. The driver cannot speed on pit road, and you have to have a solid stop because we anticipate everybody will take 4 tires.
Yeah, and that front 8 cars, they are now in a league of their own. They're starting to pull away, and that's the guys that can run wide open or close to wide open at this point in the run.
The margin of failure right now is 1 second. Look at the 11, the FedEx car, Jason Leffler. He is in the final transfer spot. 1 second, and several cars behind him is the 00 of Kenny Wallace. For Wallace to make the Daytona 500, he has to get past Jason Leffler in the 11.
He knows that. Jason Leffler knows that, and now everybody else knows that.
But as this field gets scattered out, that's where that pit stop can become even more important. That'll be coming up here shortly. We see Casey Mears in the 41 car there on the bottom. He was one of the few cars back on about lap 5 when we had that first caution. He came to pit road and made some adjustments and got 4 fresh tires. He could run a little further, but he will not want to. He'll want to come with the pack.
No, but there's 7 laps difference in his tires and the guys in front of him, and that 7 laps is huge this year down here as far as grip and how the car drives.
Mike Skinner has now faded back to 6th. He is trying to race his way in, but he does have a fast speed to fall back on. He'll be in the 500 regardless.
Something I need to make note of. I'm going to go back up there to the 3rd place car, Ryan Newman, the 12. You just mentioned Casey Mears. Ryan Newman also ducked on the pit road and got those 4 fresh tires. This is now where those little bit fresher tires are really showing up.
Yeah, it's only 7 laps. That's when they came in and got those tires, but that's a huge difference in what he's racing against.
You mentioned Mike Skinner and drop back to 5th. Here's Steve.
Mike just checked into his pit area. The guys are saying that he's gotten a little bit loose in that number 23. They're going to make an air pressure adjustment and adjust on the track bar to tighten him up.
Skinner, past champion of the Craftsman Truck Series. In the 500, it's Jeff Gordon, Kurt Busch, Ryan Newman, Michael Waltrip with 26 of 60 laps complete.
Since 1978, the Hawaii Ironman's 140-mile human blast furnace has scorched the circuitry of the world's fittest athletes, like pro triathlete Chris Lee, who in '97 would bow to the unforgiving terrain of Kona.
I was so dehydrated, my body just shut down with 50 meters left.
It was like watching a train wreck in slow motion. It was hard to watch, let alone film.
At that point, the race meant nothing.
6 years of setbacks landed Chris at the Gatorade Sports Science Institute.
Well, like most athletes, Chris had no idea how much sweat he was losing.
With a new hydration strategy in hand, Chris snapped the tape at the 2004 Ironman Coeur d'Alene.
I guess his stuff works.
And Gatorade continues to fuel athletes everywhere, from the hardwood to
brought to you by Gatorade Thirst Quencher. Gatorade isn't in you. Jeff Gordon leading on lap 29 and 60. We've already had a caution. Let's check in with Steve Farge. Steve?
Mike, Kenny Wallace had to hit pit road. He feared he had a tire going down. They're looking long time on the left rear tire. On that 00, they did make a chassis adjustment 1 round out of the left rear. Michael Waltrip will come soon as well. He fears a tire's going down. Dick.
Jeff Gordon, the leader in. They are taking outside tires so far. 97, Kurt Busch, who had been running in 2nd spot, pitted right with him. No surprise, there was conversation between those 2 crews. 4 tires everywhere. Matt?
The 16 car, Greg Biffle, overshot his pit stall. He had to back up, losing significant time here on pit road. Meanwhile, Dale Earnhardt Jr. is already in. He's down and away. Holstein or Dale Jarrett pitted the lap before. Significant track bar adjustment for DJ.
20 cars pitted on this lap. There's the race off pit road. We're still under green.
See Casey Mears in the 41 car. We're seeing the other 4 cars that did not pit with that group. They're hitting pit road now. Now, there's a mistake right there. It looks like Jamie McMurray has stalled the car and they can't get it refired, or something has happened possibly that will not let that car go.
Only wide open.
Jason Leffler.
Car just fell off the jack.
Another mistake, Darrell, right there by the pit crew. This is a brand new pit crew for Jason Leffler.
And we've seen the 16, the 42, and the 11. All 3 have trouble on their pit stop.
And Murray finally gets fired and he's away.
Tell you who didn't have any trouble on his pit stop was that 15 car. He beat everybody off pit road.
Dale Jarrett the first to come down pit road with Kenny Wallace, and 18 of the front pack followed soon thereafter.
Now this is who won the battle off pit road right here. Is Casey Kane in the 9 car. He's running here with Randy LaJoy in 34. And Darrell, at most racetracks we go to, a lead like this would be great, but it will not be good because those back 5 or 6 right behind him, they are running him down about a second a lap.
Now, you think those 2 cats took 4 to get that far ahead of everybody else? I didn't know. I was watching that group behind them, and I didn't see it. I just was curious.
We'll find out. Casey Kane.
I got to get my best man on it.
Kane and Waltrip were the first 2 off pit road, and that's the way they'll come by to complete 32 laps. Ryan Newman in 3rd. Kurt Busch in 4th. Jeff Gordon 5th. Ricky Rudd 6th. Dale Jr. in 7th. Kyle Busch, Travis Kvapil, Jarrett, and his teammate Elliott Sadler.
The reason Casey Kane won the battle off pit road, we just received the confirmation. He did change his 2 tires, and there you see how fast Michael Waltrip in the 15, the group he's pulling along, and they probably will just drive right by Casey Kane. Looks like they're going to kick him to the high side.
Well, what set that all up was Saturday night a week ago, when they saw Ryan Newman take 2 tires, get a huge lead, and then hang on to finish 2nd. I think that's what the thinking was right there.
But Darrell, he only had to hang on for 15 to 18 laps with about 30 degrees less track temperature.
Oh, I know. I mean, I'm not. I'm just saying. I know that.
Let's get an update on those stops, starting with Dick Berggren.
Kurt Busch, car number 97, had an excellent stop, Mike. 4 tires on that automobile, and what's most interesting about it is that the defending Nextel Cup champion was able to hold his entire crew from last year. That's unusual. Ordinarily, when a guy wins the championship, other teams raid his crew and they try to get fast tire changers, a quick jack man. All the guys stayed with Busch, and they are doing very well today, Steve Burns.
Hey, Dick, a couple of updates on 2 cars that are out front. Michael Waltrip, they took 4 tires, and they raised the track bar, the only chassis adjustment of the number 15. And Casey Kane, yeah, they took 2 tires, but they wanted to take 4. Kane slid through the pit box, so they only put on 2 tires. Matt.
And the 42 lost a lot of time. Jimmy McMurray, his car was tight on exit, especially off turn 2 before that stop, made an air pressure adjustment, stalled when the car fell off the jack, and meanwhile, a slow stop for Jason Leffler. This team trying to come together, build some chemistry, knock off some rust for Leffler. He had a great run going before that stop.
Casey Kane was in a hurry to get to his pit. Watch Kane's number 9 come down to the entrance to pit road. At the bottom of your screen, that red car trying to get woed down to pit road speed.
Yeah, a lot of room on the outside. Wonder why they're all slowing down.
And of course, the reason they're all trying to get slowed down in a hurry is when they got to those cones, they had to be at 55 miles per hour. Matt talked about Jamie McMurray. He's up there running now with the lead pack. We see him out the windshield of Casey Kane's car here. He's running in 5th position, but he's 26th, 1 lap down.
Larry and Darrell, the one thing that would kind of worry me, sliding it that hard coming to end of pit road and sliding through his pit, he may have damaged that left front tire. It may come back to haunt him before the end of this run, big time.
Yeah, I guess they played the hand that they were dealt. When he got in trouble coming on the pit road, they really had to change their strategy. That's probably one reason why they took 2 tires, hoping that the left side would be okay.
And it appears if they can stay in that draft right there, even with the 2 tires, and we don't have a caution, that he can have a good top 6 or 7 finish.
Randy LaJoy has made a 2nd pit stop. He's going to be in there for a while. And Steve Burns has an update on tire worries.
Yeah, Mike, I said Kenny Wallace was afraid he had a tire going down. The right front tire was shredded down to the cords. Different tire specialists from Bobby Hamilton Jr.'s team. Also, other teams on pit road taking a look at this tire.
You know, Larry, that dadgum tire looks like it's worn out. I mean, it looks like it's just wearing the rubber off of it or peeling it off and getting down to the carcass.
Well, Darrell, we've been seeing this throughout the week. We saw it last Friday in Budweiser shootout practice. We saw it yesterday, especially when the track temperatures was up. And the conclusion that I have formed is we maybe have a little marginal tire with some very aggressive setups on some of these race cars.
Yeah, there's no room for error. You got to nail it. You got to be right on, which some of these teams are notorious for.
Let's go back among the have-nots right now. Mike Wallace is the first car not in one of those two transfer positions. But the good news for Wallace is the two drivers that are in those two positions, Mike Skinner and Jason Leffler, would have qualified on speed. So Wallace doesn't mind if they stay ahead of him, because if they race their way in, then his speed is good enough to get him in the 500. The next car back among those not yet qualified for the race is Kerry Earnhardt, driving the number 33. Earnhardt would need both Leffler and Skinner to qualify, race their way in a top spot, and someone in race 2 for his speed to be good enough. So the bottom line is Kerry needs to get going if he can. The drivers locked into the field are racing for starting positions at the Daytona 500. They will line up on Sunday on the inside column based on their finishing position here. Two-thirds of the way through the first half of the Gatorade Duel at Daytona, and Michael Waltrip out in front of Ryan Newman, Kurt Busch, and Jeff Gordon, who continue to run single file nose to tail lap after lap. Let's go to the pit. Matt Yoakum.
Mike taking a look at Dale Earnhardt Jr.'s right front tire. Now, the same characteristic that we've seen with the tires that have been having issues this week we saw with Jr.'s right front. It looked a little grainy from the middle of the tire to the inside. He also flat spotted it when he came to a stop, but you could see portions of it near the outer edge where the rubber had started to peel away, and you could see a little bit of the cords through different portions of that tire. So they are slightly concerned down here in the 8 pit.
But look how far to the left he's having to crank on that steering wheel. That means he is leaning on that right front tire, and with the tire combination they've got down here, that's not gonna work. I don't know how they feel down in the pits there, Matt, but
Randy LaJoie goes for a spin. He had gone a lap down after being involved in the first incident, and now he brings out the second caution flag of the day.
And I know a car that wanted to see this caution is Jamie McMurray in the 42 car. He will get the pardon to get back on the lead lap.
Harold, Randy, that's tape on the left front corner from the previous crash. Not little bit of that valence has come apart.
he has no tires visually down, but one of the things that's been happening is they've been losing the, wearing them down to the cord, so I'm not sure what caused this problem.
Jeff?
Mike, one thing right now is for a lot of these teams, do you come to pit road or do you try to stay out and get back track position as far as that's concerned? For the leaders, if I was Michael Waltrip, I'd come get me 4 tires and race it hard to the end. But for a lot of guys, they may think about staying out to get in front of him and maybe take advantage of the draft.
Well, these guys, Jeff, they've been out there now for about 13 laps on these tires. We saw earlier what Casey Mears and Ryan Newman did with a little fresher tires.
Randy LaJoie, 2-time champion and a winner here at Daytona in the Busch Series, but having a tough day here.
Yeah, that looked like fluid coming out of the car, so I think something let go in the car is the way that appeared. Gets in his own oil, and there's nothing you can do but just ride her out. Pretty nice job, and I'm backing it up in the fence.
The Mach 1 Racing Chevrolet number changed this year from 98 to 34, and LaJoie trying to race them into the 500. And it appears he's going to idle his way around to the garage as we're under the second caution flag.
Okay, crew chief. I'm leading the race. Don't have that many laps to go. What do you want me to do?
How's it driving? How's it feel?
I tell you what I like. I like looking at the back of that pace car, but guess what?
The pace car is going to be out there by himself.
He and Jamie McMurray and Schrader are the only cars going to stay out.
Well, remember, Jamie McMurray had to stay out, Mike, because he gets the free pass to get back on the lead lap. Dick Berger. Well, Kurt Busch initially wanted to stay out, but he had to come in with everybody else. You cannot stay out there if everybody else is going to get 4 fresh ones. So everybody around me is getting 4 fresh tires.
The 8 is in, a track bar adjustment already for Dale Earnhardt Jr. He almost slid through his pit stall, smoking that left front tire, Steve. Matt, Michael Waltrip saying, I need to be just a little bit freer, just a little freer. 4 tires for Michael Waltrip.
Elliott Sadler won't get going. 2 crewmen had to push his car down through traffic. Finally, it fired.
Making those mistakes on pit road here late in the race.
And I was mistaken. Schrader did stop. It was Hermie Sadler who stayed out.
All right, remember, I talked about desperation. Remember, Johnny Sauter in the 09 car,
he is not in the race or was not in the race where he was running. They followed everyone to pit road, and at the last minute before the commit cone, he drove back out on the racetrack, making that desperation move trying to get in this race.
I think it's a good move, Darrell. I think it's the only shot he's got, I think.
Yeah, I mean,
I think it is the only shot.
Do what you got to do, you know.
Well, if he follows the leaders and he gets 4 tires, he's going to follow the leaders.
Not only would Sadler's car not fire, not restart from the pit box, now it's trailing smoke.
Yeah, there's big problems there, I would say.
4, smoking in all 4.
Sound like it's maybe a gearbox related problem. He's saying it's smoking in all 4 as if maybe there's a problem there.
Let's show you what Johnny Sauter did coming toward the pit.
You see all the leaders coming to pit road. Now watch way back up here. You'll see the cars. You'll see that there's the 09 right there, and he's going to drive back across the grass because he was not quite to the commit cones. He was not there yet, so that was a perfectly legal move.
Sneaky, but legal.
Well, that maybe he was forced to kick back. You know, there's a lot of traffic there. Maybe he had no choice, and now he has to play that hand.
Strategy unfolds. 15 laps to go in the first of 2 here at Daytona.
At times like this, I think how lucky I am to be a NASCAR Winston Cup driver, and how fortunate I am to have a great sponsor like Napa Auto Parts, because Napa understands quality and value, and the importance of having a friendly, knowledgeable staff. And it's at times like this, looking around at the empty grandstands and listening to the silence of pit road, that I realize I'm at the wrong track.
Hey, this Monday, Speed Channel presents the NASCAR show for the NASCAR masses. NASCAR Nation. It's more than just news and all-access pass to the hottest sport in the country. Declare your own citizenship. NASCAR Nation, exclusively on the Speed Channel. FX, glad you're with us. Great crowd, about 100,000 here on a Thursday afternoon in Daytona. Moments ago, we're in the first of 2 races today. Elliott Sadler, who won one of these events last year with transmission problems, done for the day.
Yeah, he got ready to go out of pit road, and it looked like he lost first gear. He went all the way around the racetrack, came back in, and the guy said, hey, all I've got is second, third, and high. Didn't feel very comfortable at that, so decided to put it behind the wall. All
right, inside of 15 laps here to finish up. Johnny Sauter, a guy who has to race his way in leading, but Dale Earnhardt Jr. right behind him. He's in, but has a lot of pride on the line here. It has been a great week for DEI.
Hasn't been a great week so far. They chose to put on 2 tires during that pit stop. He's been making pretty good moves all day long, and they've shown that the cars, as far as DEI is concerned, work pretty good out front, so it'll be interesting to see what happens when we go back to green.
Let's check in with Matt Yoakum. Matt?
Chris, all eyes keeping an eye on that left front tire of Dale Earnhardt Jr. Jr. keyed the mic and said, I flat spotted possibly that left front when I came in kind of hard. They said, if you want to come back, you can come on back, but it's up to you. And Mike Jr. said he'll keep an eye on that and pit if he needs to.
Well, Matt, this changes everything. Johnny Sauter staying out gives him his one and maybe only chance to make the race. He's the leader of the cars not yet qualified. Mike Skinner in third is next, and Mike
beat Dale Earnhardt Jr., Mike Skinner, and Kyle Busch. Only changed 2 tires, as well as Mike Wallace in the 4 car.
Well, it's a new year. Crank it up. Let's go. Crank. To go. Johnny Sauter, driving James Finch's Dodge, has his big chance to make the big dance. and he's holding them off.
And I think the biggest thing he has to do, Darrell, if he possibly can, if that car will let him, is especially through the corners, run the bottom, hug that yellow line.
Yeah, I think so, and really he's in pretty good shape because the guys that is around him right now aren't any faster than he is. The fast guys are coming up on him. Question is, can they get to him?
Dick Bertrand.
Old Kyle Busch, the rookie, has asked his teammate Jeff Gordon to please push him toward the front. Gordon on the radio said, if you can stay on the bottom, I will push you to the front. So we got the rookie, we got the veteran, they're teamed up, and now his brother is behind Kyle Busch.
Kurt Busch, the Nextel Cup champion, 97. Kyle Busch, the rookie cup driver in the number 5 that Terry Labonte drove for so many years. And Gordon splits the middle.
But I think what happened, Ryan Newman was so much faster in the middle of the corner, he had to get out of the throttle and go up the racetrack.
Matt?
And the 12 and the 8, Mike, were trying to get back together. Steve Meal, Junior spotter, was keeping Junior abreast of where the 12 was on the racetrack, which pack and which lane he was coming fast in.
And suddenly, it's rush hour, 3 lanes wide.
Oh, yeah, I saw a little smoke come off a couple of cars. This is not a comfortable place for anybody to be right now, not with most of these cars already in the race. And Jeffy getting beat around a little bit there.
10 laps to go.
Look at him through the tri-oval. From about 3rd through 20th, they're 3 wide. 10 laps to go.
You know who's loving this?
Johnny Sauter.
Yeah, baby. So look at this.
So many times the best racing at Speedway has been right here on Thursday. Big crowd on hand to see it. And after Sauter, they're 2 wide, then 3, then 3, then 2, then 3. Wow.
When they've got on 4 fresh tires, you can expect this kind of action. The thing about it is, the longer they run, the worse the cars get to handling and the more reckless they get.
From 1st to 16th is just 0.8 of a second.
And there's Gordon right there on the bottom.
And Dale Earnhardt Jr. 8 car, he was caught in the middle, and he's going backwards now. He's getting a little bit of help, pushing him back to the front now, but he lost a bunch of positions last time through 3 and 4. And Mike Skinner in a 23 car, I believe he may have led that lap that time.
Boy, Gordon and Kyle Busch and Kurt Busch right there on the bottom trying to get through.
Mike Skinner trying to win his 2nd Daytona qualifier, Steve.
Oh, Gordon goes up the hill and has to get out of the gas.
And he made contact and backed up for it.
Oh, yeah, that was a great save. I mean, everybody around him did a great job of keeping from wrecking.
Let me tell you who really benefited from that, though, was Ryan Newman, I think, in that 12 car, because look at what a run he gets down the backstretch, and he's pushing Skinner through 3 and 4.
Boy, Jeff Gordon's hung in the middle, and he is not happy. His car is all over the place. See Gordon dancing around there.
Let's have another look as Mike Skinner crosses the line with the lead with 8 laps to go. Watch Gordon's 24.
Oh, there they go, guys. There they go.
Turn 1.
Right up in front of somebody. Are they going to make it?
Casey Kane and Carl Edwards get together. That sounds like a tire down, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah. That's cars shaking, tires blown out.
Now, when the caution comes out, the field freezes. There are 18 scoring loops, electronic lines across the track, and you are scored based on the last loop you crossed immediately prior to the caution. You don't race to the line. You don't race to the next loop. You are frozen in position.
And I know this is exciting to watch because my heart is pounding out of my chest, but that's exactly what you expect to happen when they get to racing around like that.
Right in the middle, Carl Edwards.
Jeff gets into the 11 car, gets him loose. Gets the 9 knocked sideways by the 77 car of Quaffle, and that took Casey Kane in the 9 car for a ride.
And that right there is why you hear our voice go up an octave when we talk about 3 wide.
Gordon and Leffler contact. Kane comes right across the nose of Carl Edwards in the 99. We were lucky that was not about an 8 or 9 car pileup. Let's ride with Casey Kane.
See right in front of him. Jeff gets over into the 11 car. Kane has to lift ever so slightly. Gets run into from behind by Travis Quaffle in the 77.
Let's ride with the 11.
Yeah, this ought to be a good ride.
Looked like the 77 got in the back of Casey.
77, Travis Quaffle.
Carl Edwards coulda, woulda missed this, but, well, couldn't have. You'll see the 9 come across there.
You just see Jeff Gordon squeeze up into the side of Jason Leffler or into his left front wheel, got him loose, and that's what created all that.
Now, what got him up there, Darrell? What got Gordon up there?
Jeff was really fighting with his car. He got hung in the middle.
Kyle Busch got loose in front of him, in front of Gordon.
And he was trying to avoid him. Got over into Leffler.
Kyle Busch, the 5 car.
Under caution are Mike Skinner and Johnny Sauter, who fell to 7th, but is still the 2nd not yet qualified car in the running order.
I just saw smoke coming out of Johnny Sauter's car there. Looks like it's smoking here. If we have, they come to the line this time with 6 laps to go. I think the engine's blowing up on that car.
Yeah, that's coming out both pipes.
What a shame.
There's Casey Kane. He is out of his car. He's okay. His day is done, but he'll be in the Daytona 500. 6 laps to go, and this is just the first half of today's doubleheader.
Johnny Sauter, one of 11 children in his family, trying to race his way in. Bad news following what we just saw moments ago. And Jeff Hammond, looking at the replays here, he may have been involved in triggering this.
He might have. We saw he had engine problems right now. If you'll notice, as we go through the pack here, the 09 car is way down low on the inside. Down low, he'll come up in front of the 5 car of Kyle Busch, making him have to check up a little bit. If he's losing an engine right there, that's where Jeff Gordon tried to stop, got over into Jason Leffler, and this whole thing kind of got triggered. Right there is where Kyle Busch had to lift, and all the trouble started. And next thing you know, here come Casey Kane getting into Carl Edwards, as well as this big wreck because of it.
Kane not able, and this may be typical of what we're going to see at the Daytona 500 on Sunday.
Well, a lot of these guys, that was pretty much a desperation move, I think, by Johnny Sauter, trying to get into this race right now, and he had engine problems. It wasn't totally Johnny's problem or fault, but it does happen every now and then.
Casey Kane, one of 5 cars done for the day. Let's check in on Sauter with Steve Burns. Steve?
Chris, let's get the definitive word from the crew chief on the 09, Tony Liberati. Tony, what happened to the race car?
Well, you know, we had to roll the dice and just do what we could do to get in this race, and we had to race. Johnny's doing a heck of a job, and the motor just let go on us, and that's pretty much it. The motor let go, and I'm pretty sure we would have made it in, and we got another motor for the 500. Guys back at the shop work real good. You know, the motor's been strong all weekend, and we've been struggling a little bit, and I thought, you know, we made that call to stay out, and I thought it was going to be good, and we ended up blowing up there towards the end, so I guess we're probably going to have to load up and go home.
Thanks, Tony. Let's go to Matt Yoakum.
Dale Jr. will restart in 3rd. Now, a couple different comments on his radio. First, he said when he gets in the middle, it's almost like the engine just quits, like there's a huge cushion of air. It's almost like he's sitting in quicksand. Now, the 12 told the 8 that he's going to try to pass the 23 of Skinner on the outside, and the 15 of Waltrip will also jump in and go high with him. Mike?
It'll be 4 laps to race. Mike Skinner trying to secure a spot in the field. If he wins this, he would start the race Sunday 3rd. If he is not one of the top 2 cars, not yet in a qualified spot, he'd be back about row 18. So let's see how it fares for the Bill Davis team, who won the Daytona 500 with Ward Burton a couple of years ago.
And you can usually tell who's got a lot of power by these restarts. The guys that can kind of jump out, take off. Those are the guys that have a lot of good horsepower. Kind of lag back means it takes a while to get her wound up, you know.
What Mike Skinner in the 23 car wants to do here, our leader, you don't want to get too big of a lead and let that group, especially Ryan Newman's been so strong, get that run on him. Got to give a call to Casey Mears in the 41 car. He's made an extra pit stop at the beginning of the race, started back in 19th, and he's up there battling in the top 5.
Now, Casey's got a fast car. He's been fast all week. He was fast in the Bud shootout. It looks like it's coming around for him.
Mike Skinner won a qualifying race here in 2001 for Richard Childress. Steve?
And Mike, on his last pit stop, Mike Skinner took just 2 tires, but when the caution came out most recently, he said, boys, we didn't need to see that caution flag.
Poor Dale Earnhardt Jr. in the 8 car, he put those left side wheels below that line, and that's a little different banking transition. Yep. It upset the car.
What happened was Junior was going to, or the 12 was going to get a run on the 23 on the outside, realized he couldn't make it, dropped down in front of Junior. Junior had to go to the bottom.
3 laps to go. Skinner in the show. The last transfer spot, a battle between Mike Wallace, number 4, and Kerry Earnhardt, 33. There is the gap. Wallace is in, Earnhardt is out right now.
Second 33's coming down that back straightaway. Pretty steamy, though, chasing the 4 down.
And just remember, Mike Wallace in the 4 changed only 2 tires. Kerry Earnhardt in the 33 changed 4. This could be the difference right here. He's going to go by him on the high side with help from Greg Biffle and Jason Leffler.
This would put Earnhardt in the race by his finishing position, and Mike Wallace would still get in the race on speed if Mike Skinner stays up front.
That's 2 to go that time, and basically all Mike Skinner in the 23 car can do right now is just try to run the bottom, a lot like Johnny Sauter did earlier.
Is that old sorry 8 car and 15 up there trying to take the lead? Again? Look at them. On the outside of Ryan Newman, it looks like they might make the pass.
They got Kurt Busch with them, and then Ricky Rudd on the outside.
I'd say that looks like a big 18-wheeler rolling down the track right there. Here they come on the outside. Got the push right around Skinner. They go.
Here comes Kerry Earnhardt around the outside of Casey Mears, racing his way into the Daytona 500. Side by side for the lead. It'll be 1 to go.
And Mike Skinner in the 23, there's not a whole lot he could do right there. White flag this time.
They were 4 wide, and Dale Jarrett got squeezed out of that sandwich.
Yeah, Dale said, you know, I'm on the pole, and guess what?
Right.
You boys just go right on up there. Ooh, somebody's getting forced high, but they held on to it.
Last lap.
Kerry Earnhardt in the 33, Greg Biffle in the 16. They've been working right against the wall through the corners, getting 3 or 4 cars a lap. Half a lap to go.
Biffle's been good all weekend. Comes Ryan Newman. Got the push.
Now, who's back there against Kerry? Kenny Wallace in the 00. Battling Kerry Earnhardt, 33 and 00 for the final transfer spot.
See Jamie McMurray in the 42 car. Remember, it wasn't that long ago. He was down a lap.
Down to the line in the first of the Gatorade Duel. Junior below the line.
Mikey got him.
Michael Waltrip wins it in the final 500 feet.
Oh, boy.
Mike Skinner finishes 3rd to transfer into the 500. And unofficially, Kenny Wallace by 1/100th of a second over Kerry Earnhardt, the last transfer spot.
And just remember, halfway through the race, Kenny Wallace had a tire problem, had to make an early pit stop right about the time that the green flag stop started. But Michael Waltrip beat Dale Earnhardt Jr. by 3/100ths of a second.
All week long, everybody said in Daytona, what's happened to DEI? They don't have their dominance. They're not as fast as they used to be. Look at this.
Yeah, 1-2. Mikey's, you know what? He's side drafting off of Dale Jr., and Dale Jr. is doing all he can to keep him back there. Probably thinks he's got it won. Ooh, looked like when he came up off the flat, Dale Jr. got just a teeny bit loose, slowed him down a little bit, gave Mikey the break.
Last time I saw a finish like that, it was at Talladega, and it was you and who? Terry Labonte looking at each other. Ron Bouchard came around the outside to beat you.
So I don't remember that guy being there. Good job, Mikey.
Michael Waltrip, who won a qualifying race in 2002, will be headed to victory lane at Daytona. And we're only halfway through the day's racing.
A dramatic finish. Michael Waltrip finishing ahead of Dale Earnhardt Jr. here at the Gatorade Duel at Daytona. You get a look at the winner in the first of the 2 races today here on FX. Let's get on there with Steve Burns. Steve?
All right, thanks a lot, Chris. Michael getting a big kiss from his daughter Macy and his wife Buffy. That's a nice family photo for you. Now, Michael, earlier this week, everybody was saying, what the heck is wrong with DEI? So what did we learn today about your teams?
It's just, it was a little too early to tell. Dale Jr. is the coolest dude in the whole world. He said, all things will be clear after Thursday. And I think maybe he was right. We've got fast cars, and these boys I got here working on my car, they just make me so happy. We worked real well. I got a setup in here that I've never raced before, and it feels great. And it's fast car, and they've got us more power coming. After all the talk, you know, people wanted to see if they could do anything else, so more power's on the way.
Tell us about your key move to win this race, Michael.
It's tense, and I knew when I got to second with Dale Jr. that I had a shot because Skinner had a fast car. So coming down the back straightaway, I just rolled out of the gas, and and blocked and hoped that they would get to my bumper. And when they did, I got to turn 4, and I was pushing so bad. But the front end just stuck enough for me to keep a good line. And I side drafted off Dale Jr. I thought he was going to go in the grass, so I just followed him down there. But what a great teammate. I'm just so blessed. It's been a wonderful offseason. Operation Marathon was a huge success with the Las Vegas Marathon and raising $1 million for the camp. And new team, smiles all around. These guys feel like we can win a lot of races, and that permeates through the whole organization. And I'm thankful for Napa, Bass Pro Shops, Domino's Pizza, Coca-Cola, all my sponsors, Costner Furniture, and if I'm forgetting anybody, you'll have to forgive me.
No, you're doing good.
Best Western, thank you.
All right, thanks, Michael. And Chris, he talked about that marathon. He ran 26 miles in under 4 hours, a personal best to go with a win today.
All right, Steve, I bet he's sweating a little more right now. His second Gatorade Duel victory, and here is the finish. Mike Skinner trying to hang out, but here comes Junior and Michael Waltrip. In fact, Michael's finished 9th or better in the last 12 Gatorade Duels. Let's check in with Matt Yoakum, who's with Dale Earnhardt Jr. Matt?
A lot of work by Dale Earnhardt Jr. to get to second, but still a lot of work left for Sunday Jr.
Yeah, we got to work on this car a little bit. Michael had a real good car, and he did what he had to do there at the end to win. He helped me a lot to get up. And I back crashed a couple times, and just had to get back there and regroup a little bit. But I'm real happy with finishing second. I was hoping I could have won it, but just Michael, he did what he had to do. He did the right moves, and I was just kind of sitting there, easy pickings. But
what about the comment about quicksand?
Well, no, I was just running out there. The guys, I just couldn't stay in front of them, man. There was 3 wide behind me when Gordon and back wrecked there. I just felt like I was holding them all up. We slowed our car down from yesterday. We had a real good car in practice yesterday, and we slowed it down a little bit. We'll go back and change the lanes and get it right.
Junior finishes second, his twin 150. Guys?
All right, thanks very much. Of course, Junior's older brother, Kerry Earnhardt, trying to race his way in along with Kenny Wallace. Let's first check in with Dick Berggren. Dick?
With Mike Skinner, who finished 3rd in that race, and one might think you'd get out of the car with a huge smile. You haven't smiled yet, man. What's going on?
I'm just happy. I'm happy that Team Argent Mortgage came on here and helped Bill Davis out with this effort with the 23 car, and I'm excited. I saw deja vu there with me and Earnhardt there a few years back, and thought we had a pretty good shot at it, but when Michael was pushing him back there, I was just a sitting duck. As long as Ryan was staying up there, I was good, you know, and Ryan had a pretty good run on us one time, and I was able to block him, and I thought Ryan was going to be able to stay up there, but when Little E got on the outside of Ryan, it killed his momentum, and at 15 pushed that 8 by. I was like, we're just a sitting duck. But I really appreciate everybody, and I appreciate the sponsor coming on, Valvoline, and you know, everybody that's helped us. I want to thank Toyota for letting me do a little moonlighting, and all the people that helped me, Justin Boots and Maui Jim Sunglasses, Easy Go Golf Carts, and a lot of people that's came aboard this year that's really good support for us.
Watch Mike Skinner on Sunday. He's got a fast car, and he's as good as anybody on these restrictor plate races, Chris.
Yeah, Dick, so Mike is in. So winning the race is one thing. Getting in another. Kenny Wallace, 00 car. Kerry Earnhardt, we mentioned moments ago, in the 33, battling each other to try to be the transfer or race themselves into the Daytona 500, keeping an eye on where they finish. Let's check in with Matt Yoakum. Matt?
Kenny Wallace, that patented laugh. You're giving body motions of how you got around that corner, and you raced into the Daytona 500.
Come here, Ricky. It means a lot for somebody like this to come up and congratulate me.
He raced his butt off, man. He earned it in here. I tell you, I wouldn't want that pressure. Good job.
It was incredible.
I don't want to take your time. Good job.
That's okay. We had right front tire problems. We had the car too tight. Then the fenders were too close. We couldn't get the tire on the pit stop. I was screaming and holler, we're ruined. I felt like Mark Martin. I said, we're junk, we're ruined. And I seen Randy LaJoie blowing that motor, and I love the heck out of him, but I'm like, thank God. And then it was just one move on the white flag lap. I had to run. I swear I was running 220 miles an hour. I went 4 wide, and I'm in the Daytona 500. And let me tell you what, it's going to be in the papers tomorrow. I'm so excited, I can't stand it. I'm just so... $100,000, $100,000 my part. Yes.
7/1000ths of a second.
Well, you know what? Junior said he was going to take care of Kerry. And, you know, Junior was up there doing his deal, and Kerry, I'm going to tell you what, Kerry did a great job. I'm not saying that because I'm in. I came down here, and I thought, okay, if I'm flipping and I get by him, we can take out the backup car. So I got it right about here. and it was like a tiebreaker. I started turning into him, just turning right, and I started surging ahead. And don't let anybody ever lie to you. My gut has been tore out. I haven't been able to sleep. I'm in the Daytona 500, and we earned it. We're there because we did it. You know, we did it. Nobody broke. Nobody did anything. I'm so excited.
He will race on Sunday, Mike.
All right, thanks. That's Kenny Wallace, the shyest of the Wallace brothers. And we might have all three in the Daytona 500. We'll talk about Mike's chances to race with Rusty and Kenny when we come back. But the winner, Michael Waltrip. And here's how it sounded when he raced across the finish line moments ago.
Stand by for that. We get set.
We won the race! Can you believe it? That was the coolest. Wasn't that?
And we'd like to welcome Office Depot to the NASCAR Nextel Cup family. It reminds small business owners to visit their local Office Depot to find out how their business can win designation as the official small business of NASCAR. You'll be featured on the '99 Office Depot car. The winner announced under the lights in Darlington on May 7th. Nice to have you with us on FX. We have another race to go, but let's quickly take a look at the Gatorade Duel at Daytona, race 1. And on lap 5, you see Randy LaJoie, who needed to race his way in trouble with Carl Edwards. 5 cars involved in this, bringing out the caution. There goes Ken Schrader slipping and sliding, but he will be in the race on Sunday. And a little bit of teamwork. The DEI cars, this was a signal early, Jeff, with Junior and Michael.
Yeah, it looks like days of view right there, but all of a sudden, the 8 car goes up the racetrack right there, early part of the race, but he recovered very well. And here's Elliott Sadler. Looked like he was going to have a strong day, but he loses the transmission and behind the wall.
Lap 52, you'll see Casey Kane involved. Johnny Sauter trying to live the American dream. He needed to race his way in. Part of triggering this, had to be aggressive, wound up going home. Carl Edwards involved in this as well. As you take a look at Casey Kane slipping and sliding, done for the day, but he'll be in the Daytona 500. And you see Johnny Sauter's dream coming to an end with Mike Skinner trying to hold on. Michael Waltrip followed by Dale Earnhardt Jr. crossing the finish line to pull out the win. But again, Kenny Wallace edges out Kerry Earnhardt 7/1000 of a second to work his way in as a transfer. And Mike Wallace is also in as well.
Yeah, we had some great racing right there. If you take a look, Kenny Wallace is back here in 10th place. He will be in the Daytona 500. And even though some of these guys, where they finish like Kerry Earnhardt, he's going to have to wait and see how things go in the second race and whether or not he's going to be able to get into the Daytona 500.
Dale Jarrett started on the pole. In the upcoming race, Jimmy Johnson will be on the pole. Lots more to come on the pole when we come back. Don't go away.
It's a little bit loose in the turns, but man, it's a sweet ride. Now that's horsepower.
Getting ready for race 2, the Gatorade Duel at Daytona. If it's anything like race 1, you'll want to hang around. Kerry Earnhardt on the outside looking in, trying to race at his first ever Daytona 500, and he is standing by with our Dick Berger. Dick?
Well, Kerry, you almost made it. How close was it in that 150-miler?
Man, it was so close. I mean, it was like that close. I mean, I think it might have been in my favor and the computer messed up.
Now, in this second race, if Boris Shedd and John Andretti finish well, you're still in. Where are you going to watch the race from, and will you be cheering?
Yeah, I'll be cheering for John Andretti, and I mean, he's such a great friend. And Boris said, I've been just kind of buttering up to him all week, just patting him on the back and saying, "Go get him, man. Let's go." So I might even get a radio and help him out.
Okay, good for you. Well, we can feel the tension down here. No question about that, Mike.
All right, thanks, Dick. And there is Boris Shedd with Jeff Hammond, Chris Myers at our Hollywood Hotel. There's a lot of emotions here. You know, it's almost unfair. Waltrip Jr., it's almost like they wait, they take the race, and then guys like Johnny Sauter need to race their way in. They don't get it, but you saw the joy and happiness, the elation of a Kenny Wallace. All 3 Wallace brothers will be in Sunday's Daytona 500.
But that's what has always been the beauty of this race as far as the 150s now. Whenever you come to Thursday, that was the drama day. A lot of things happened on Thursday that will never happen in any other racetrack on the circuit during the course of the year. Thursday's a huge day day for anybody who wants to run the 500. And believe it or not, we still got one more race to go and a lot of drama to go as far as how that race comes out.
And we'll look at that second race with Jimmy Johnson on the pole. We're starting in the front row in Sunday's Daytona 500. Guys like Robbie Gordon, though, they need to race their way in. Mike Joy is standing by with all the notes in his calculator to explain who's in, who's out, what we should be watching for. Stick around. We'll be back here at Daytona on FX in a moment. Living out their dreams. Some hopes are fading here at Daytona. FX glad to have you with us. The Gatorade Duel at Daytona. Getting ready for race 2. Jimmy Johnson on the pole. Kevin Harvick up front. Guys like Martin Truex Jr. and Robbie Gordon, a guy who's raced at every level from the Daytona 500, the Indy 500, the Coca-Cola 600. There's Kevin Harvick. Robbie Gordon, a guy who has to race his way in. Some are sitting and watching. Some have done all that they can do. Others have a chance to perform here and assure themselves a spot.
Yeah, and you may call this thing a duel. I call it a street brawl, especially after what we saw in the first race. There's going to be a lot of aggressive driving as we go through and probably have that mid-stop pit stop. When that happens right there, I think all bets are going to be off, and you're going to see a lot of guys making some desperate moves, a little bit like the 09 car. Some guys are going to roll the dice. So, again, it's going to have a lot of drama and a lot of excitement and a lot of unknowns. Desperate moves making for exciting racing. Let's check in, go down trackside, get ready for race 2. Here's Matt Yoakum.
Chris, momentum continues to build for Jimmy Johnson and the 48 team. Saturday night, they won the Budweiser Shootout, a huge $200,000 plus payday. Chad Canales, the crew chief, told me today they've got 2 items on their agenda. 1, they want to find out about this race car, make sure there's nothing majorly wrong with it. And 2, what size is the trophy if you win the duel? As Jimmy Johnson gets ready to climb in, you watched the first 150. What did you learn, Jimmy?
It reminded me a little bit of the shootout where the lead car really has the advantage, but it did seem like handling was a lot more important than it's been typically in one of these qualifying races. So, you know, I think being up front is going to be important, staying in clean air, so hopefully we get a good start and get single file. But that pit stop is going to make it interesting and give everybody a chance to really work on the race cars. So, I don't know. It looks exciting. Every driver I saw walking through the garage when I was coming out said, hang on. The track's evidently really slick.
And the biggest thing, they want to make sure this race car leaves this race undamaged so it can start on the outside front row on Sunday. Dick Berggren?
Well, 2 of the sport's most popular drivers, Mark Martin and Rusty Wallace, share a lot in common. And among the things they share, they will be racing in the Daytona 500 for the final time on Sunday. And neither has ever won the race. You ready to go get them?
I'm ready to go get them. That doesn't sound good when you say neither won the race, but we plan on trying to win the race, I'll tell you that. I really feel like I got a good car. Today's going to be a really important day to know right where the handling's at for the Daytona 500.
And right behind him, Mark Martin. Steve Burns?
Well, Dick, 24-year-old Martin Truex Jr. is the reigning NASCAR Busch Series champion, and Michael Waltrip just won in a DEI car. That's good news. Dale Earnhardt Jr. was second. Good news. But the bad news is they're not here to help you, so what do you do?
I'm not sure yet. I'll just have to find out. Hopefully Tony, you know, I'm sure Tony will run good here. He always does. I'm going to try to stick with him if I can. I'm not real sure. Just going to feel it out, see who wants to help me, and I'm just going to try to be patient, take my time, and let things come to me. I'm going to try to make things happen.
And Chris Myers, he needs to race his way in, and that orange car of Tony Stewart is right in front of him.
Always exciting there. Martin Truex Jr., a guy who plays a lot of video games, says it actually helps him. I wonder in this situation if there's as much pressure when you're playing a video game here. How about the guys, we saw Rusty Wallace, who were already in, but we saw the desire to win in the first race with Waltrip and Jarrett. Why is this so important for them other than maybe position for Sunday's race?
Again, it's a matter of pride, Chris. When you get into a race like this, you really want to do your best. This is a great tune-up for a lot of these teams. You want to work very diligently to try to eliminate mistakes. We saw a lot of mistakes being made on pit road, cars being stalled out, missing your pit, coming in too hot as far as pit road is concerned. This is a great tune-up for Sunday, especially when you know you're already in it. So don't, blow it. You need to take full advantage of it.
It may be a little confusing, but the exciting thing is there are a lot of ways for guys to get in. Racing your way in, certain speeds, qualifying, waiting things out like Kerry Earnhardt is doing. You saw Mark Martin a moment ago, a guy who's still searching for his first ever Daytona 500. When we come back, Mike, Larry, Darrell, his other brother Darrell, they'll all help us. Get ready. They'll put you in the seat for race 2. We're just about 5 minutes away from the command. Race 2 at the Duel at Daytona. Downtown Daytona, not too far from the beaches where it all began. The Great American Race Sunday on Fox. FX getting you ready for race 2, the Gatorade Duel. We're getting a little bit closer to finalizing the field for Sunday's Daytona 500 on a clear sunny day. Some clouds creeping in, but let's go up to Mike Joy. Things look like they're clearing up, Mike.
Well, 4 drivers have raced their way in already. Mike Skinner and Kenny Wallace in the race. Jason Leffler locked in on speed along with Mike Wallace. You see the drivers who are going to try to race their way in round 2 here. And with standby tickets, Martin Truex Jr. and Kerry Earnhardt. That's because if Boris Said or John Andretti, who had the 2 fastest speeds of the drivers in this race, race their way into a transfer spot, they won't have to fall back on their speed. That is Kerry Earnhardt's only shot to make the race. Truex, of course, could race his way in. Let me get the book out.
Yeah.
I'll have another look at
well,
this.
The only thing we know is we know more than we did, but we still don't know everything. But the good news is, you know, Larry, if I'm down there getting ready to run this race, second race is usually a little calmer than the first one. Plus, my teammates are feeding my crew information about the track conditions, things we can do to make my car really good. So I'm pretty happy to be in the second race. All the races I won was in the second one.
Well, and if I'm one of those teams, one of those 9 teams in this race, I watched what Johnny Sauter and Tony Liberati did with that 09 car. It was a move that probably was not going to win the race, but it may have very well, had it not been for that engine, put them in the Daytona 500.
Yeah, I think it would have gotten them in the race. And yes, traditionally, if one of these races goes topsy-turvy, the next one's a very orderly affair. What we just saw was the 16th time in history that a last lap pass has determined the winner of one of these Gatorade Duel races. But now, 150 miles of racing left to go, and that will set the starting positions for the outside column of 22 rows for the Daytona 500. Very special young man will give the command to fire engines. Matt Martin, Mark Martin's son.
Race fans, it's time to get the second Gatorade Duel started. Will you please welcome back 13-year-old Matt Martin for those most famous words in motorsports.
Gentlemen and Dad, start your engines.
We're getting ready for race 2, the Gatorade Duel at Daytona. The dramatic finish in race 1. Jeff Hamill, what's going through the drivers' minds after what they saw? You heard Jimmy Johnson say other guys told him, hey, it's slick out there. It's getting warm. Be careful.
Well, a lot of these teams have been monitoring the guys that ran in the first race.
The second of our Gatorade Duel
adjustments as far as the tire pressures are concerned. So they've got a little bit of idea of what's going on, and they at least got some comfort in knowing they didn't have any kind of tire issues of any major factors. I think that's a good thing. A lot of comfort.
Some drivers at the wheel have a chance to put themselves in. Others are watching. We're glad you're watching with us from Daytona here on FX. We'll be back with race 2 in just a moment. Cars are rolling here at Daytona. Temperature rising for race 2. So is the anticipation setting the field for Sunday's Great American Race, the Daytona 500 on Fox. And the command moments ago, 13-year-old Matt Martin, when he said gentlemen and dad, there's his dad in the 6-car, 46-year-old Mark Martin. It is 21st Daytona 500. He has yet to win, but what a career he has had. In fact, this is his 21st Gatorade Duel, his best finish second. And Mark Martin has made it clear that this is his last full-time run in Cup racing. He's winding up after this.
2005 will be my last shot at a Daytona 500. Does that eat on me? No, it does not. And I'm not going to apologize to anybody. I've had a great career, and I've been incredibly blessed, and I've done more than I ever could have dreamed of. Every race is an opportunity to win, and it doesn't matter to me if it's Martinsville or the Daytona 500. A win is a win is a win is a win. If I was only going to win one, it might be different. But they didn't give me a choice of which one I could win. I was just fortunate enough to win more than one race, and that's how I look at it.
And on winding it up, you know, I talked to Mark Martin this week. He said, I'm not just going to race and hang around. I'm going to race to win, and that's why I feel good about stepping away. And he said he never made fun a priority, but he's going to have time in his life for that and his son, Matt. But maybe one more Daytona 500, good showing on the way out would be good for him.
Oh, it'd be great for him. I think Mark's got the right kind of attitude right now. He will go out the way he wants to, and that is being a fierce competitor and probably a multi-winner this year. I believe he can win more than one race, and who knows, it may be the Daytona 500 being one of them.
Be fun watching him here and on Sunday. Let's rejoin Larry McReynolds, Darrell Waltrip, and Mike Joy.
Well, let's set the clock back to 0 because once again 150 miles to race to determine the outside column 22 rows deep for the Daytona 500. Here's the Gatorade Chevrolet and Scott Wimmer's Dodge in the 6th row. Tony Stewart's going to come from row number 7. He's got Dave Blaney in a Childress Chevy next to him. Martin Truex Jr. in a DEI Chevrolet. Sterling Marlin a Ganassi Dodge. A Hendrick Chevy for Brian Vickers. And Robbie Gordon with his own team. He has to race his way in, as does Kirk Shelmerdine and Kevin LePage from row 10. Rookie driver Eric McClure. Way out back, Matt Kenseth, the 2003 Cup champion. Greg Sachs, a July race winner here in Daytona, and Bobby Hamilton Jr.'s Chevrolet. Derek Cope, the 1990 Daytona 500 winner, and Larry Gutzman in a Ford. Then Andy Belmont and Jeff Green, who lost a motor during qualifying laps and did not get to post a time, will start scratch. Once again, 9 drivers have to try to race their way in, and here they are. Now locked in at least on speed, Boris said, and John Andretti, but if one of those drivers is in one of the 2 transfer spots, Martin Truex gets in the race on speed. If both Said and Andretti fill the transfer spots after 150 miles, Kerry Earnhardt also makes it into the great American race.
Gatorade Duel at Daytona, brought to you by Budweiser. The bright color and crisp, clean taste you'll only find in the king of beers. Well, Michael Waltrip shot to the front with Dale Earnhardt Jr. to win race 1 today. Mike Skinner couldn't hold on, wound up 3rd. How will this 150-mile race finish up? They're getting ready to go. Let's go upstairs for the call. Darrell Waltrip, Larry McReynolds, and Mike Joy.
Darrell, if you stand and watch the first race and have to race in the second, how much does the strategy and what all plays out in race 1 affect what you do in race 2?
It's that dadgum helmet, Mike. I know everything there is to know, and my crew chief has explained everything to me just like and I'm going to be calm, I'm going to be cool, I'm going to take any chances. I put that dadgum helmet on, and I forgot everything he said.
You forgot about the word conservative, right?
All I know is I got a gas pedal and a steering wheel, and I'm going to use them both.
Larry, Tony Liberati's strategy not coming in when everybody else stopped under that final caution, it might have got him in the show. Will we see more of that?
I think we will, because I think there are some cars that it's going to be tough for them to make this field if they just follow the leader. So I think they will have to roll the dice. We talked about Robbie Gordon in the 7th car. He was going to start back in the 18th position. The mountain will be even taller for him. They had an engine change. He'll have to go to the tail end of the field.
But you know, Larry, one thing, nobody had to make a green flag pit stop in that first race. So that's another element that has to be considered if this thing should go green, and you got to make a green stop.
Once again, cars that finished in the top 35 in owner points last year. There are 17 of them in this race. They are locked into the 500 along with outside front row starter for the 500, Jimmy Johnson. The rest of the field has to try to race their way in to one of 2 transfer spots or fall back on being one of the fastest speeds in qualifying. 60 laps, 150 miles, round 2 of the Gatorade Duel at Daytona. Green flag, and Jimmy Johnson brings them to the line.
Boy, Joe Nemechek in the 01, his teammate Scott Riggs in the 10, they stayed latched to the rear bumpers of Jimmy Johnson and Kevin Harvick, the 48 and 29.
Yeah, that was a nice start. That's as clean as it gets right there. Kind of all 4 of them come across side by side.
9 cars break away from the pack at turn 2. Steve Burns.
Mike, I spoke to Scott Riggs right before he climbed into that number 10 car. He said he wasn't nervous. He's confident because he has a good race car, but he wants to work with Joe Nemechek and get out in front of this pack because he said out front, there's not as much downforce on that right front tire. Matt?
Steve, Kevin Harvick told me as he was climbing in, the biggest issue he saw from the first twin 150, you've got to be mistake-free, both the driver and the crew. That's where he felt like most people won or lost the race in that first twin. Dick?
Mark Martin is in a big pack of cars, but he has come on the radio and told the crew it just won't run. Car not performing well for Mark Martin, car 6.
Topside, number 7, Robbie Gordon, driving for himself. A brand new race team, and he took them 3 wide around turn 2. Trying to go on the high side. Dave Blaney latched onto his bumper.
Well, there's a lot of room on that outside. Guys always want to fight to get to the bottom. They feel safer there, and they think that's the best place to be. But you can pass a lot of cars if you can get it working up on the high side.
And Mark Martin, the 6 car, he just opened the door for Robbie Gordon in the 7. And look, already, Matt Yoakum, we have deals going on pit road. You see Todd Barrier and some of, I think, Jeff Burton's crew.
Actually, that's Scott Deal from the Home Depot team and Larry Mack. Remember, Dale Earnhardt Jr. typically works with
Smoker,
Tony
turn
Stewart.
1, trouble. Scott Riggs.
Oh, we got another one back here wrecking. 2 of them hooked together up into turn 2 wall.
Greg Saxon, the 13. Kirk
I'd
Schimmer,
say
the 27.
That's fluid coming out of the smoker. Probably got on the track, and these guys look like they just got into it.
First caution flag of race 2. Steve Burns.
Mike, just listening to the radio communication on the 10 car, I don't think it's a blown motor for Scott Riggs. They have a tire rub on the right rear.
Yeah, it appeared to be a tire rub, Steve, but then the first thing I saw was those 2 cars behind them kind of take off as if they had run over something, but we'll take a look at it and see.
For Shelmerdine and Sachs, who split with his car owner just before January testing and came down here with his 2 sons as crew in a put-together last-minute effort.
See if we can see what happened back here.
This will be a blow to their chance to make the race.
Comes Sachs in the red car on the outside, Shelmerdine in the black car on the bottom. Oh, Sachs just went up the hill and got sucked around there by the 55 car of Derek Cope, and Kurt had nowhere to go. Shelmerdine in the 27.
That was absolute rear of that big pack.
So the Wabash boys didn't last long.
I think you could see right there the right rear tire smoking on Scott Riggs, the 10 car, as they came off turn 2.
So trouble early for some of the drivers who had to try and race their way into the Daytona 500. 3 laps complete.
You know, being teammates is about more than just helping each other win races every week. It's also about helping each other learn.
That's right. Michael has taught me that Napa parts are as good or better than the parts that came on your own car, and that Napa parts professionals can always help you get the job done right the first time.
Yeah, and Junior taught me how to do this.
I'm not taking credit for that. That needs just a little work there, bud.
Man, are we going to take every lap full speed? Yeah! Are we going to trade paint without fear? Yeah! Are we going to choose the right hair color to match our skin tone? Tim?
Jerry, I'm an autumn.
I'm a spring. Let's go out there and win one!
Supercuts, proud sponsor of Fitz Bradshaw Racing.
For the Supercuts nearest you, call 1-800-SUPERCUTS or log on to supercuts.com.
Welcome back to the Gatorade Duel at Daytona. Race 2 already underway and under caution, getting ready to get things going again. Jimmy Johnson has a chance here to do the Daytona triple. Of course, he won the Budweiser Shootout Saturday night. You saw it on Fox, winning a Gatorade Duel race here, and then maybe the Daytona 500, a race that has escaped him, but he has shown he's certainly capable of coming in first. Let's rejoin Darrell, Larry, and Mike.
6 laps complete. They'll get the green when they come by for 7. In the transfer spots right now, Boris Said and John Andretti. 1 spot away, Kevin LePage. 2 spots away, Derek Cope. Here we go. Green flag to begin lap 8.
Guys, we talk about this racetrack getting slick. The track temperature is about the hottest it's been all week long. It's up over 105 degrees, even hotter than it was in that first race.
Ooh, slip sliding away, baby.
John Andretti, Jeff Burton down to the bottom. In 4th and 6th place. That's Boris Said alongside Andretti, the blue car. Matt?
Everybody outside, one outside, one outside.
Under that caution, Mike, Kevin Harvick told his spotter to tell his teammate in the 31, Jeff Burton, that if they start to pull away, he will slowly fade back. He knows he needs to have a teammate to push himself up to the front. That's the game plan in the RCR pit.
Well, look at that 36 car in the middle there with that yellow bumper. Watch him dance around there coming off turn 4.
And that's one reason we get so excited when these guys try to run 3 wide.
That is Boris Said, world-class road racer. Competed here last year in the Bud Shootout, raised some eyebrows, and got himself a 10-race deal with MB Sutton Motorsports that begins right here in the 500.
Normally, a guy with, you know, a limited amount of experience, he's going to try to find his way to the back of that pack.
You know, right up in front of this pack, you see Bobby Labonte in the 18 car doing a little bump draft on Jeff Burton here, the 31. But a car that's really made a move right in front of this group is Martin Truex Jr. He started back in 15th position, and he's trying to move his way up into the top 5. You see him right there on the high side, the 1 car.
And Larry, he's in a go or go home. Sweeps up high, looking for 4th place. Rusty Wallace up to 3rd, behind Jimmy Johnson and Kevin Harvick. Here comes Truex on the outside.
But just remember, it was his teammates that ran 1st and 2nd in that first race. How about it, Matt?
Larry Mack, during the break, Kevin Bono Mannion, Martin's crew chief, asked Dale Jr. on the radio as he was pulling on the pit road, what can we pass on to Martin to help him get into the 500? Jr. responded simply, the 15 pushed me all the way up there. I can't help you out at all. I can't give you any knowledge.
I think Michael's car in that first race was definitely a little quicker than Dale Jr.'s, and you got to have a fast car to help you.
Jeff Burton trying to bring that second group to the front with Joe Nemechek in the 01. Back of the pack, Robbie Gordon in the 7, Scott Riggs in the 10, Mark Martin in the 6. Trying to make some noise, but it's all bottlenecked 3 wide in front of them.
You know, the cars come through the trial. Well, this is the fastest part of the racetrack. From turn 4 down to turn 1 is the longest part. It's 3,800 feet. Pick up a lot of speed heading off into turn 1.
Just look at this lead pack of cars right here. 23 cars, less than 2 seconds from each other.
On the inside, Bobby Labonte in the green 18. Got an open lane in front. Harvick get some help.
Harvick wants to go. Stuck that thing on the outside of Jimmy Johnson. That's a pretty aggressive move.
But where will Rusty go in the 2? That may determine who comes off this corner with the lead.
I know what Rusty did, though. He opened the bottom for Martin Truex Jr. in the 1 car, and he's bringing Brian Vickers in the 25 with him.
I'm just a strong believer overall, in and out, that the bottom is going to be your best bet. That yellow line is your best friend. Looks like Harvick's going to prove me wrong here. Made a nice move on the outside, bringing Rusty with him, but I still like the bottom.
The bottom's good as long as you don't have a big line of cars on the outside.
It looked like the Harvick had a pretty good head of steam as they went off into turn 3, and he was able to carry that momentum all the way down here to turn 1.
But Darrell, I think the old Daytona slingshot is back. Wallace went from the bottom of turn 4, shot to the high side, and that gave him a little extra momentum to give Kevin Harvick that push coming to the trioval.
It's a timing thing. It's just like when Michael jumped out behind Dale Jr. down here off before to come to the checker. He got a good run off of Dale Jr. and was able to make the pass. The guys were saying it was hard to pass with this smaller plate, but so far they've been doing a good job with it.
See that 17 car there on the bottom, Matt Kenseth, remember he had to start at the rear of this field because of an engine change. He's worked his way into the top 10. Not real surprised to see John Andretti in that 14 car running good. Remember, that is Yates engines, and basically a lot of information comes from Yates for this team.
But Larry, that is a team that September 1st, that 14 team did not exist. Greg Pollux put that team together, found a sponsor, put John Andretti behind the wheel. They had a good test. They've had a good week.
They have had that.
The top of your screen on the crawl, names in yellow like Kevin LePage. Those are the drivers that have to try to race their way in. By amongst those drivers shown in yellow, finish it in the top 2 amongst those drivers only in this race.
I think we have some faster race cars at the back of this pack, like Tony Stewart in the 20, like Robbie Gordon in the 7, but they're bottlenecked up back there. They have nowhere to go.
And that was a problem in the Bud Shootout Saturday night, the middle of the pack. Oh, man.
4 wide, Tony Stewart outside of the 20.
Borsett got washed up the hill there and about got into Tony.
Bergeron has an update on Mark Martin.
Who is running quite well at the moment for a guy that's got an engine problem, Mike. And Pat Trice, the crew chief, just told me that the engine simply won't accelerate, but once it gets up to full song, it's just fine. So he's out there dicing around for position.
Yeah, I thought Mark diagnosed that a little quick. You know, first lap he's saying there's something wrong with the thing wouldn't run, and you got to get the chance to get it hot anyway.
But now when you look at this group right here running 2, 3, and 4 wide, those top 5 or 6 are starting to pull away because they're single file. If these guys get single file, they'll run that pack right back down.
I don't like the looks of this.
From 6 to 16 is less than half a second, Steve.
Mike, just listening to 21-year-old Brian Vickers on the radio, he said, my car is pretty good. It's a little bit tight coming off of turn 2, but I'll keep you posted. I don't want it to be much tighter than it is now.
And Steve, by that car being tight, not turning, he's about to lose the draft of those top 4 cars.
But you know, they've helped that car a lot, Larry, because we watched him in practice. He had his hands full yesterday. They've done a good job of getting the car a little better, a little more comfortable for him, looks like.
Big Orange is coming on the outside. Tony Stewart in the 20, now tucked up behind John Andretti. But Darrell, he has rim road all the way around this speedway, and he's been gaining spots every lap.
As long as you can keep your foot in it, keep your momentum up, you can keep going forward. So you got to burp it a little bit and get in line or give somebody a break. Seems like it breaks your momentum, takes time to get it back.
Teamwork now as Stewart drops in behind his Joe Gibbs teammate Bobby Labonte in the 18.
And Tony's saying, hey, dude, I'm down here, stick with me.
16 laps completed. Kevin Harvick, Rusty Wallace, Jimmy Johnson lead the second race in the Gatorade Duel at Daytona.
Continued Saturday, first Wood Series event of the season. NASCAR's biggest current and future stars meeting on the same track. Our coverage of Daytona's Speed Week leading up to the Daytona 500. Continuing Saturday, the Hershey's Take 5 300, 1 Eastern, 10 Pacific. And of course, Sunday's Daytona 500 on Fox. Nice to have you with us here on FX. Race 2, the Gatorade Duel at Daytona. Kevin Harvick leading. Chevy's making a run after dominating in the earlier race. And for Richard Childress Racing, an important bounce-back year, more specifically for Harvick. This is a good place to start.
He really is, Chris. They had a great qualifying effort, and right now Kevin Harvick is showing a lot of strength right now against Jimmy Johnson, who a lot of people figured would be the guy you'd have to beat. So far, he's pretty much showing him the way.
In terms of guys like a Brian Vickers, you see Tony Stewart. It looks like they're kind of waiting to make their move. Vickers maybe a little more aggressive.
He's still kind of like I would consider Brian somewhat of a rookie. And, you know, he's got a lot to learn yet. Tony's just kind of cruising up through there, realizing that we still got a lot of racing to do. You're trying to get up there about lap 30 and start thinking about making that crucial pit stop. I think this is really what's going to break up the field if this pit stop comes down to a green flag stop.
Chevy, the top 5 spots currently. Matt Kenseth moving up to 6th in his Ford. Let's rejoin Larry, Darrell, and Mike.
I think one thing we're seeing is the importance of teamwork. Michael Waltrip and Dale Earnhardt Jr. pushed each other to the front. Watch 4th and 5th place. They're Bobby Labonte and Tony Stewart. They are teammates, and they have been working together. Now, just in front of them, Jimmy Johnson and Brian Vickers are also Hendrick Motorsports teammates. Remember what Kevin Harvick said in pre-race. He's our race leader, but he said if necessary, he would drift back and pick up his Childress teammate in the 31, Jeff Burton.
Right now, it looks like Jeff Burton, the 31, was kicked to the high side, and he's been kicked back 3 or 4 positions.
Yeah, Matt Kenseth in the 17 car has made a really nice run up to 6th place, right behind Tony Stewart. Those first 6 cars look like they'd like to hook up here and do a little drafting away from the rest of these cats.
In the transfer spots right now, Martin Truex in the number 1. And I believe John Andretti in the 14. They would be the transfer spots. Boris Said would go in on speed, as well as Kerry Earnhardt. But a lot can change.
And Darrell, you would tend to believe the crew chiefs and the spotters would love to tell these drivers in the top 7 or 8 positions, since we're only 8 to 10 laps away from that pit stop, stay in single file. Much easier to get the pit road in a single file than if you're 2 and 3 wide.
I think that Jimmy Johnson would like to get back out front. If he can get Vickers to go with him, looks like they got to run down into turn 1. Here he goes. But Vickers can't stay with him. And I don't know if Jimmy's got enough steam to make the pass there all by himself. If he can get some help from his teammate, he might.
And Harvick has no help either right now.
Everybody's pedaling as hard as they can go to get back up there.
Looks like Brian Vickers in the 25 is going to be the odd man out here because Tony Stewart in the 20 obviously is going to stay with his teammate Bobby Labonte in the 18.
Yeah, Jimmy Johnson in the 48 car needs help badly if he's going to make that pass. Otherwise, he might fall back to 7th or 8th place.
Here comes Burton on the outside, that bright orange 31 of Jeff Burton. That is Harvick's teammate. Help on the way?
Yeah, for Jimmy Johnson. Looks like Burton's going to help Jimmy try to push him up, getting past Harvick here as they go into turn 1. That's what Jimmy needed in the 48 car, and he got it.
Now let's see if those two Childress cars can get nose to tail instead of side by side at 2nd and 3rd place.
You can't look over at each other because of all the head and neck restraints, but I guarantee you right now Kevin Harvick's trying to look over at Burton and say, "What are you doing?"
This reminds me of Mike Skinner and Earnhardt in the qualifying races, Larry.
Several years in a row.
Right.
I can hear him now. I can hear Harvick now. Will somebody please remind him what team he's on?
You don't have to work with me, just don't work against me.
Yeah, but you know, Burton in the 31 car, he's looking to make some noise here this weekend too.
Change in the transfer spots. Martin Truex and Robbie Gordon right now are the two drivers that would transfer into the 500.
Jimmy better look out. He's going to get sacked on the bottom.
You know, I've been watching Robbie Gordon in the 7 car. Remember, one of those cars that has to race his way in. I just believe that what this car may do, he's already made a pit stop for 4 tires. I bet he'll be one of the cars that'll roll the dice when that pit stop comes up and change 2 tires to try to get that track position. Matt Yoker.
Larry Mack, Robbie reporting in that his car has gone to the tight side, doesn't want to turn like he wants it to, especially up off turn 2. He has backed off, drifted back, just riding, trying to save his tires, just like you mentioned, in case he wants to roll the dice and go with 2 instead of 4.
Well, Matt, and of course the thing about that, normally just changing right side tires, if your car's pushing, unless you make a major adjustment, it will make it push worse.
Yeah, I think that how the car's handling, you know, one of the things we've seen, Larry, I believe, if your car's pushing, you have right front tire trouble. Obviously, that's the tire you're leaning on. If your car's loose, you're going to have right rear trouble. So the tires are really telling the guys what to work on.
Andy Belmont has taken his Ford to the garage area. An early exit, 34 laps to go.
And Jimmy Johnson in the 48, he loves what he sees going on back there behind him. He's like, you guys just continue to run side by side. I'll just get me a little lead here and just stay there.
Yeah, this pretty much is the way I thought this would go, with Jimmy just sitting there kind of leading him around here all day. I was surprised that Harvick was able to jump out there on the start.
But, Darrell, nobody minds who leads these laps. It's after that pit stop when it counts.
It's a psychological advantage.
And he's had one all week.
That's right. Got to be a better word than psychological advantage. I'll think of it.
Harvick and Burton have been unable to get nose to tail and help each other until just now. The two Richard Childress Chevrolets, their teammate Dave Blaney is also in this race, right now running in 13th.
Now that's where Burton probably told his spotter, tell the 29 to let me get in front of him and we can get around this cat. I'm faster than he is. I caught him.
Yeah, I was trying to race him. I just tell myself there, you know.
What you said.
Yeah.
Right.
Indeed, talking on Kevin Harvick's radio, they were trying to clear him for several laps, but he just couldn't get a big enough hole. When they finally got it, he dove in.
And I want to go back to what I said a while ago. These guys needed to get in this position for that pit stop that will be coming up in just a few laps. Not running side by side.
Well, right now, I mean, if you got a teammate, you know, Burton and Harvick, they're teammates. You'd think they'd want to try to help each other get around 48.
Uh-oh, right front tire on Robbie Gordon. Gordon has to race his way in to make the 500, and he's got a problem.
Well, he's going to come to pit road. This is almost the exact thing that happened to Kenny Wallace in the first race about this very lap. And this is about the time these guys were going to start peeling off shortly, making that green flag stop.
It couldn't happen in a better place. He's coming off turn 4. He's not going to lose that much time. And he had to make a stop for coming up on it anyway.
5 away.
May work out.
He'll need a caution, though, to catch back up to the field.
And of course, he's going to be back out on the racetrack until these guys all make their pit stop, running about a second or two slower than the pack that's in a big draft.
That's the one I'd have taken. I'd have had to roll the dice and take 2.
I think we're going to see pit stops coming this time because we're coming to halfway. They're breaking it down 30 and 30 laps.
39. Lucky horseshoe for Robbie Gordon, maybe. Let's see if the leaders peel off and come in. They're all down the bottom of the racetrack. Here they come.
Good grief. Somebody, look at Harvick down on the inside.
But what Harvick's doing right there is perfectly legal because they just now have to be single file.
The Joe Gibbs cars stayed out. Pit road is busy at halfway. Matt?
And the Harvick car, the Johnson car, and the Burton car all come to a stop, pitting together. A lot of conversation between the teams before the race, trying to figure out who you would like to pit with, as Truex Jr. is in as well. As you can see, the tires going on the left side of Jeff Burton's car. The lookouts are on Jimmy Johnson. He's down and away. It's going to be a battle off the 29. Slow a little bit. The 48 gets by him, Steve.
Matt Brian Vickers stalls the car. When they drop the jack, he has stalled the car. And now they may have to cut the motor off. He stalled it.
And they're pushing Sterling Marlin. Meanwhile, here come the rest of the leaders onto pit road. Tony Stewart locks them up along with Bobby Labonte, Matt Kenseth, Joe Nemechek, Scott Wimmer, and Boris Said come to the pit lane. Dick Bergman.
A bit of a surprise. The Joe Gibbs cars did not pit on that first round of pit stops. Tony Stewart now in his teammate, the 18, Bobby Labonte, pitted a little bit further down. They have run together all day long. Stewart, twice in this race, has finished second. He has never won it. He's got the car to do it today. Steve.
Dick Brian Vickers' afternoon is over. Same exact problem they had in the Budweiser shootout. As Joe Nemechek pits behind him, Vickers has broken opinion. Meanwhile, Nemechek 4 tires and he's down pit road. He's been tight. Matt.
And remember what I told you, what Kevin Harvick said before the start of this race. The driver and the crew both have to be mistake-free, a little slow, leaving his pit stall, allow the 48 to get by. And that's what happened during Saturday night's Budweiser shootout, allowing Jimmy Johnson the track position to go to victory lane.
The stalled engines and broken gears and transmissions are a product of the first gear that they run down here. It's really, really high. It's almost like a normal second gear. So when they drop the clutch on these things, it just loads the drive line up so hard that it breaks something. Plus, you run a different drive pole angle on this racetrack than you do others for speed.
Sterling Marlin did get going. He's back on track. Scott Riggs, though, is smoking once again. And out front, the 2 drivers who started out front, Jimmy Johnson and Kevin Harvick.
But when I'm looking at the guys that are leading up there, you just mentioned them, Mike. Jimmy Johnson in the 48, Kevin Harvick in the 29. How about the guy running right with them, Mark Martin in the 6? It wasn't 30 laps ago. He was on pit road with the hood up. And now he's running 3rd, and those 3 are about to break away from the rest of the pack.
It's fair to say that Mark Martin had his most enjoyable season in Cup last year, making the chase for the Nextel Cup, the final 10 races, and having a blast doing it. Got one more try as Brian Vickers' cars rolled back to the garage. We're just past halfway.
Where was that? Oh. Welcome back. The leader, Jimmy Johnson, moments ago involved in a major pileup. We'll try and sort through it. Jimmy Johnson going into the infield. Let's go upstairs. Mike Joy, Larry McReynolds, and Darrell Walton.
Coming off turn 2. Jimmy Johnson leading the race. There's Kevin Harvick, who is tucked up tight behind Jimmy Johnson. The 2 made contact. Johnson went around. Mark Martin went to the outside wall. There is Rusty Wallace, crashed to the infield, as is Joe Nemechek. Things got too close in turn 2.
Yeah, there's this bump drafting thing that's going around, and it's gotten out of hand. You know, bump drafting down here, you do down a straightaway, in a straight line, and it seems like everybody's got the idea you can do it just anywhere you want to. Laid into him right there and just gets him loose. Mark has nowhere to go. Everybody starts checking up a little bit, and hello.
Boy, Jeff Burton, the 31, and Tony Stewart, the 20, just makes it through, as well as Bobby Labonte in the 18.
48 car to the garage.
And that will mean that Jimmy Johnson will have to trot out a backup car and start at the back of the 500 with a lot of these drivers here. Whoa, Rusty! Another wild backstretch ride at Daytona for Rusty Wallace.
You know, you said that about Johnson's car. It didn't look hurt. When I saw it, okay, let's see if he hits anything, because I think he may just spin it down into the infield. Might have a little cosmetic to that left rear, but I don't think he ever hits anything.
You're right, Darrell. So that will remain their primary car if there's no
I don't even think it's
damage that's not visible.
Right.
But wow.
That thing, the roof flaps came up, kept it on the ground. You saw the rear tires hopping up and down, but the rest of these guys were not so lucky.
And those acres of pavement back there coming off turn 2 to the inside helped keep it on the ground. How many times in his career has Rusty been in the air on the backstretch here?
Some guys, Daytona is just not good to them.
Let's ride with Kevin Harvick and listen.
What happens, Mike, is you get a run on a guy. You get a good run on him, and you know you can't lift. And you're hoping by the time you get to him that over there you're off the corner. Listen to that thing crash.
Dick Berggren.
Johnson, what happened out there?
The same stuff from last year. I don't know, from the start of the race, Harvick tried giving me a flat on the initial start. And then we're out there riding along, and he pulls his head off of his shoulders and tries bump drafting in the center of the turn. I guess all those years of watching TV and worshiping racing like he says he didn't watch much of it to realize you're not supposed to bump draft in the middle of the turn. It's a shame. I mean, just tore up 6 or 7 good race cars. I hope that Childress either fires him, does something about him, NASCAR does something about him, because this is ridiculous.
Thanks,
absolutely ridiculous.
Thank you, Jimmy.
Obviously very upset, and rightfully so.
But the good news for Jimmy Johnson and Chad Knaus, as you pointed out, Darrell, is that car looks relatively undamaged. Now Johnson, if he can use this car, will start on the front row of the 500. There's no incentive for him to finish this 150.
When you're back here, like I said, you're getting a run, you're getting a suck off of that car, and you want to get on. You hope that you time this just right to where you come out from behind him and don't touch him. It's a lot like trying to run through a stoplight. You come into it, it's yellow. It's yellow. Am I going to make it? Am I going to make it? And it turns red before you get through it.
Poor Mark Martin on the outside. Jeff Burton had the inside, so did the 20 of Tony Stewart. Those were the right ways to go. Mark got trapped on the outside. Rusty got turned around. And Harvick will not race that car on Sunday.
I don't think he'll ever race that one again.
I mean, this obviously tore up a lot of equipment, but what this did do for people like Robbie Gordon, Martin Truex, it puts them back with the lead pack, since we did have a caution with that. And as the pace car brought the field around, everyone except for Jeff Burton and Scott Wimmer made 4-tire pit stops.
Saw Jeremy Mayfield on pit road. He won the second practice here yesterday and told me last night he has a car capable of being at the front. There's Wimmer in the 22, the cat car, right behind Jeff Burton, lined up behind the pace car. Right now, the racing cars are Martin Truex in the 1, and Eric McClure was posted next to the 73. That'll cycle around now after those pit stops. Dick Berggren.
With Mark Martin, what happened?
Well, Jimmy spun out, but he said he had help, so we had a wreck. I could win the Daytona 500 with that car.
Can you win the Daytona from the Can you win the 500 from the back in the backup car?
Absolutely not. Never happened. That car could win, though.
Very disappointed, Mark.
Another one like that, though.
I'm sorry.
Let's go back and look at the start of the race and see what Jimmy Johnson spoke about when he and Kevin Harvick, starting on the front row, had close company at the drop of the green flag.
Yeah, apparently there was some bad blood here before we even got to the green flag, or at least when we took the green flag. I think Jimmy's talking about maybe Harvick pulled down on him, or, yeah, right there you see him make contact.
Bumped.
I remember being in a driver's meeting at Talladega one year, and some of the younger drivers were hearing everybody talk about bump drafting. And some of the older drivers had to go explain to them that you do it in a straight line. that you don't touch another man's bumper when he's in the turn. You can't hang on to a car when you do that.
Well, you saw it, Mike. It only took that one little bump when you're turning at 190 miles per hour, and here's the aftermath.
I think that was Dave Blaney that got underneath Rusty Wallace and lifted his car up in the air. Scott Riggs wrecked as well.
Inside those cars is something familiar.
For fighting, be on hand to perform and celebrate America before the Daytona 500. Don't miss the Nextel Tribute to America Sunday right here on Fox. Jeff Burton taking the lead after the crash on lap 36. 7 cars involved. One of those, Joe Nemechek. He's with Matt Yoka. Matt?
And Joe's walked out of the care center. Boy, what happened?
Well, I think you need to ask Kevin Harvick that. He's driving like an idiot. Totally uncalled for. And that's, you know, I've got a had a good race car, tore up race car. You know, it's just stupid. It's totally ridiculous. You need to ask him what happened.
And we'll walk on over to Kevin Harvick here in a second. Kevin's walked out of the care center.
Hold that for me.
As a water bottle's chucked. What's your take on the incident, Kevin? A lot of harsh comments.
Well, I just got to him, and he checked up, and I got to him, and I couldn't get off of him, and you know, I just spun him out, and you know, hate it for all the teams and everybody involved. But you know, I mean, it's not something where you want to bump draft in the middle of the corner. But I hate it for all these GM Goodwrench guys, and just got to him, and he slowed down and got sideways and got in the back room.
Okay, that's Kevin Harvick's side of the story, Mike.
Thanks, Matt. We're getting set for a restart. The cars are in turn number 3. We'll show you one more look at it.
Now, I could look at this 2 ways. Did Jimmy Johnson, where the car sometimes will get a little loose and you got to get up out of the throttle. Maybe, I don't know, you have to find out from Jimmy. Maybe he had to squeeze out a little bit and didn't give, Kevin had no option there because he was right on his back bumper. Seen that happen before.
Grinding crash coming off turn number 2 when Kevin Harvick got into the back of race leader Jimmy Johnson. 7 cars knocked out in that one. In addition to those 2, Mark Martin to the garage, Joe Nemechek, Rusty Wallace, Dave Blaney. They join Brian Vickers, Andy Belmont, Kirk Shelmerdine, and Greg Sachs out of the race. So here is Jeff Burton, Richard Childress's 3rd driver and the only one remaining in this race with the lead over Scott Wimmer for Bill Davis Racing in a Dodge, Tony Stewart in a Joe Gibbs Chevy, and Matt Kenseth in a Jack Roush Ford.
Probably see some pretty inline racing now there.
I would say so. Try to let the laps wind down. You have to believe that Tony Stewart in the 20, Matt Kenseth in the 17, plus Tony's teammate Bobby Labonte in the 18 are sitting back there trying to analyze what they may do.
Right behind them, starting with the 1 of Martin Truex Jr., that is the eye of the storm, because that's where the cars are that are trying to race their way into the 500. There's Truex, the 7 of Robbie Gordon, the 36, the blue and white car of Boris Said, and the 14 of John Andretti. They all want those 2 transfer spots.
I'm with you. You're going to have help. The 36 is inside the 7. Inside.
Well, they just left the 1 hanging out. Everybody went to the bottom.
Here's Matt.
And Russell, we've heard Harvick's side of the story, Johnson and Nemechek's. What about your side?
Well, my side was, when I got to it, it was just the whole racetrack was just solid smoke. You couldn't see a thing. And I went to the high side, and I got up there, and I saw Harvick up there. I started to come down to get away from him, but he was just coming across the track. There's just nowhere to go, and that was it. That was a hard hit, man. That's probably the hardest I've hit in my life.
Your last 500, how is the backup car?
The backup car was tight in the Bud Shootout, and we've got a complete different setup in this car. This car here was pretty good. It started pushing on me early, or not early, but about lap 20. I thought I was tearing the tire up, and come to find out I wasn't. So I think we got a pretty good setup for it. And we're not quitting right now, man. We're going to work harder.
Thanks, Rusty.
Rusty Wallace tumbled down the backstretch in this race in 1983, and in the 1993 Daytona 500 went for a barrel roll in the back straightaway.
Wimmer looked to the outside of Jeff Burton, and when he did, Tony Stewart closed the door and left Wimmer to hung on the outside, and they all went blowing by.
Let's go to Wimmer's pit. Here's Steve.
Mike, Scott Wimmer pitted on lap 31 and made a small air pressure adjustment to correct the condition he described as a little bit loose off the corners. It was a 4-tire stop.
And it looks like the 31 car, not necessarily the fastest car in this group, but every time you make a move, somebody behind you closes the door.
And that's what happened to Martin Truex Jr. about a lap and a half ago in the one car. He moved to the high side, and about 7 cars went by him on the low side.
If you don't complete the pass, you're in big trouble.
And this is what Jimmy Johnson said after Saturday night's Buck Shootout. Whoever is in the lead after the pit stop will be very difficult to pass. That's what we're seeing here. However, the Joe Gibbs teammates are right behind Jeff Burton, Tony Stewart, and Bobby Labonte, nose to tail.
And I'll tell you what, there's a couple of cars up there running awfully good. Kevin LePage in that 37 and Derek Cope in that 55. They're with the lead pack.
In 1876, my great-great-grand...
Welcome back to Daytona, where Jeff Burton trying to hold off the Gibbs onslaught. Teammates Stewart and Bobby Labonte working together, trying to take the lead from that Childress Chevy.
And Bobby pushed Tony into the lead, but once he gets there, Bobby couldn't make the pass also, so he had to leave him hanging and start protecting his position.
Push is not just a euphemism. He shoved him forward.
And you can shove someone there, still on the back straightaway.
But who paid the price for that move? Bobby Labonte. Now he's alone on the high side.
And look at Robbie Gordon in that 7 car. Remember, he had the tire come apart back on lap 28. The caution comes out. He's up there running in 3rd position. The 2-minute warning. Who's going to make the Super Bowl? Who's going to talk about trying to get in the Super Bowl?
10 laps to go, and there's apparently a deal between Robbie Gordon and Martin Truex. They are linked up nose to tail in 3rd and 4th place, both trying to race their way in. Kevin LePage in 5th place either moves up 1 spot or goes home.
And you know what? Whether Kevin LePage makes the Daytona 500 or not, what a run for him. He just put a sponsor on that car here a couple days ago. This is a great run for Kevin LePage.
He's going to need help there from Sterling Marlin to get to the front 4. Kerry Earnhardt can't do anything about it, but if Boris Said or John Andretti or Martin Truex finish in one of the transfer spots, Earnhardt will race here on Sunday.
Got a pretty good chance right now, but intensity is picking up.
You know, we talked about cars that has worked their way back into this race. Remember, Sterling Marlin in the 40 car, he's sitting there in 6th right now, stalled the car on pit road, another beneficiary of that big wreck that brought out the caution.
Matt?
Truex Jr. just told his team the car has gone to the tight side again. They said, don't worry, just keep the 37 behind you and we will be okay.
Going to have to stay tucked up in the tight draft here and not leave the door open, because 37 looks pretty darn good.
And he's already opened that door twice earlier in the race and let those cars go by him on the inside. 8 laps to go.
I'd rather be hunting than be hunted.
Yes, sir.
LePage is all over the back of him now.
And LePage knows he has to be one of those top 2 finishers. His speed is not near good enough to get him in.
Yeah, and that's he's got a little Dodge help there too. He's got Sterling Marlin. There goes his Briggs down the back, and there he goes.
LePage goes past Truex. And that would send Truex and Kerry Earnhardt home.
And Scott Riggs in the 10 car, he was one of those cars that was just remotely involved in that big wreck on the backstretch earlier and had the big problem at the beginning of the race with the tire rub. And he's up there running in 5th position.
And we know his car is fast, has good practice speeds, good qualifying. That 10 car is pretty quick.
Right now, Robbie Gordon and Kevin LePage are in the transfer spots, so the 2 final speed spots would go to Boris Said and John Andretti. But a lot can happen in 6.5 laps.
And again, those 2 cars behind Kevin LePage, he's safe with those. In fact, those 3 cars, Scott Riggs, Scott Wimmer in the 22, Riggs in the 10, Kenseth in the 17, they're already in the 500. They cannot knock LePage out even if they go by him.
The 1 car is really in trouble there. He's just floating back, and Scott Riggs has slid up in front of him now, and Scott's got his hands full.
Remember Robbie Gordon in the 7 car, they had to change engines earlier in the week. They went to a DEI engine package in that car. 6 to go.
Shelburne, Vermont's Kevin LePage, former star of the NASCAR North Series, and that number 37. He has been a full-time Cup driver. He's been in the Busch Series, put this deal together. In fact, he and his wife Donna ran their own Busch team for a number of races last year. He is trying to hang on to the final transfer spot behind Robbie Gordon.
In fact, his wife Donna, she is up top spotting for him.
And what's going to happen to him unless he can force by the 7 right here, which looks like he might do it. He got him loose and he gets to wobbling. Kevin is faster. And that was going to be a problem for him because he was going to get bottled up, but he was able to move Robbie out of the way. So I think that was a good move for Kevin.
Ever so gently. Mike Ricci on that left box with Kevin Mannion, the crew chief for Truex. Kerry Earnhardt in the right box. Can either one of them get into the Great American Race?
And Darrell, Mike, not totally surprised that Kevin LePage in that 37's running up there. Ernie Elliott engines in that car.
If either the 1 or 36 passes Robbie Gordon, Truex is in.
Boy, he got started on this, gave Truex a great shot getting into 1, and it really moved him forward.
Derek Colt, the 55, still with an outside chance, but the laps are winding down. 4 to go this time behind Tony Stewart.
We've got a lap car about 200 or 300 yards out in front of Tony Stewart in the 20. Larry Gunzelman, they had to work by him earlier in the race, and in fact, Tony will get a little sniff of a draft from him for about a lap.
Matt?
And they keep telling Truex, we're trying to get the 36 to help you to get on by the 7. As you can see, the one of Truex takes that position now, trying to dip down on the inside of the 10.
So now it's LePage and Truex in the 2 transfer spots.
LePage's car is really, really good through the turn. It's really hurt me because he's running up on the back of Jeff Burton, and he's got to squeeze out to keep from getting into him. It lets the guys behind him get all over the back of him.
In fact, that last time at the end of the backstretch, Matt Kenseth in the 17 gave him a shove off into turn 3.
3 laps to go. The lap car of Gunzelman stayed to the inside and was not a factor. Stewart looking for the win with Jeff Burton and surprising Kevin LePage running in 3rd. But here the battle is who will get the final transfer spot behind LePage. Truex is there. Robbie Gordon has to get by him to get in the 500. And Boris said would have to get up there for Kerry Earnhardt to have a chance.
And right now, Kevin LePage's best friend or his worst enemy could be Matt Kenseth in that 17 car.
I'd be really happy if I looked at my mirror and saw Matt Kenseth behind me. I think he's probably in pretty good shape.
2 to go this time. 5 miles to go.
If Stewart wins this race, he'll start 4th on Sunday. Jeff Burton would start 6th. LePage would start 8th, and Kenseth 10th. And that's too big a prize to give up for a shot to move 1 spot right here, do you think?
That's going to be a tall order. Exactly.
Darrell, if you're in that front 4, do you really want to break out?
I wouldn't budge. I'd be making a deal. Of course, I'm not driving one of them. I'd be making a deal. You won't move, I won't move.
Well, Jeff Burton, the 31, we know he wants to win a race. Kevin LePage in the 37, he wants to make the Daytona 500.
Where you get in trouble, as you see here right now, you get a run on a guy, here comes the 17, and whoa.
Oh, and Truex down to the inside of Matt Kenseth. He's going to climb up to 4th.
Well, this is it, boys. White flag, and all the stakes are up for grabs.
Look at Robbie Gordon in the 7 car. He knows he can see those cars in front of him. He has to get to him. Whoa, Riggs! Half a lap to go.
Scott Riggs got sideways off the bumper of Kenseth.
He did.
Whoa.
Did a good job of not wrecking both of them.
Look at Kevin LePage waving out the window to Martin Truex in the 1. Stay behind me. Stay behind me.
Matt Kenseth fighting back.
Robbie Gordon in the 7. If he can get by Martin Truex in the 1, he'll make the Daytona 500. They're coming to the checkered flag.
And that's his only shot.
It'll be close. He's going to have the... Well, no, Riggs is going to save the 1 car.
Stewart. Tony Stewart wins. Jeff Burton 2nd. Kevin LePage 3rd. Martin Truex race his way in the final transfer spot. And Kerry Earnhardt will pack up and head home. Sitting with Bobby Hutchins there. A tough break for Kerry. He won't be in the Daytona 500 because Boris Said and John Andretti will take the final 2 spots based on Sunday's qualifying speed.
Guys, we've been down here, though, 7 days, and Kevin LePage running 3rd in this race and making the Daytona 500. That has to go almost straight to the top of the charts of the stories of the week.
It's a great run by he and also by Martin Truex. I mean, he did a good job getting himself in there, too. Nice job, Bono.
High fives by Bono and Greasy and the guys. Congratulations, you're in the Great American Race.
Oh, I don't know what to say, man. Just awesome. Martin did a great job. Stevie spotting. I'd like to thank the motor shop. They took a bad rap this week, and they worked Dennis and Randy and all them guys in the Speedway engine down there. They flew in some parts. They tuned us up the other morning, and that was the difference.
How nerve-wracking the last 2 laps, Bono?
The last 2 days. How about that? It was nerve-wracking, but it's just great. I'd like to say hi to Teresa and Dale Jr., and thanks for the opportunity.
Thanks, Bones.
Tony Stewart, Jeff Burton, and Kevin LePage, who last year ran 17 races for 3 different car owners, going to the Daytona 500.
NASCAR on FX is brought to you by Gatorade.
Welcome you back. Fox FX Speeds coverage of Daytona Speed Week continuing next with Busch Series practice, the Craftsman Truck Series tomorrow. Nextel Cup practice, Busch Series qualifying, followed by Craftsman Truck Series racing. The Florida Dodge Dealers 250 on speed as our coverage of Speed Weeks continues across the Fox networks. Of course, Sunday, the Daytona 500, the Great American Race, 1 Eastern, right here on Fox. Tony Stewart winning his first Gatorade Duel in his 7th race. Let's go to Gatorade Victory Lane and our Steve Burns.
All right, thanks a lot, Chris Myers. Tony Stewart climbing out of a very hot race car. Tony, first of all, how rewarding is it? What does it mean to pull into Victory Lane at Daytona?
Well, at least I know how to get here in this new Victory Lane, but you know, this team deserves it. They've worked hard all winter. You know, we got a little help with obviously with a couple cars getting taken out, but I can tell you the VIP or MVP of this race was Bobby Labonte. I mean, he's the one that gave me the shot that got me through, and it stalled him out, which hurt him, and it hung him out and cost him some positions. But he was the one that won this race for us, so got to thank Bobby Labonte.
Congratulations, Tony.
Thank you.
Let's go to Dick Berggren.
With Kevin LePage, who wiped a tear from his eye as he pulled to his stop here. You're in the Daytona 500. Have you ever driven harder?
No, sir, I haven't. I mean, I'm telling you, my hat's off to Roger Craven and John Carter for putting this deal together. Patron Tequila to coming on aboard, taking a chance with us today. We put the deal together last night about 6 o'clock with Active International. Billy Poindexter, all the guys in the pits, they've been working night and day trying to get this thing together. Came here, we knew we had an uphill battle, but I'm telling you, to race it in and race it to a top 3 finish in one of the 150s, I can't be any more proud of the Nerdy Elliott engines and the Dodge, the new Dodge. It was just an awesome race car for me today.
No wind tunnel, no test. He's in the Daytona 500. Matt?
Martin Truex Jr. is also in. How did you describe those final 5 laps?
Insane. Man, I'll tell you. We had a really good car, better than I thought it would ever be. I surprised myself at the beginning of the race, drove on up there, and the dang tape blew up off the grill, and we got really tight. You know, we freed the car up to help it, and we didn't know the tape would come up, so we go out there, and I was really just out of control after that. But
you're in the Daytona 500.
I know, it's incredible. We weren't in it till the last lap, man. It was exciting.
Mike? Always a lot of surprises on Thursday. The 2 biggest today, Kenny Wallace and Kevin LePage.
Yeah, you know what? That was a $250,000 race for Kevin LePage. The 20 that he won today and the 220 he's going to take home Sunday when he starts in the race.
And even though it appeared all week since we've been down here, DEI is struggling. In the first Gatorade, they run 1-2, and then they run 4th in the second one, Martin Truex Jr.
Pretty good day. Chris?
All right, thanks. With Jeff Hammond, and you know, teamwork comes to mind. We saw it the first race, Michael Waltrip, Dale Earnhardt Jr. You heard Tony Stewart talk about Bobby Labonte, a signal of what I think we'll see on Sunday, whoever winds up winning the Daytona 500.
Well, the other thing you're exactly right about, the one thing I picked up today was emotion. I saw a lot of emotion out there for the guys who got into the race and a lot of the drivers who got knocked out of that final race. A lot of things going on as far as that's concerned.
The starting grid is set for Sunday's Great American Race. Some of those dreams that were answered, Kevin LePage, Martin Truex Jr., all 3 of the Wallace brothers. And not to be lost in the shuffle was the wreck that Kevin Harvick involved 7 other cars in. Guys like Joe Nemechek, Mark Martin very upset. Jimmy Johnson saying that Childress should fire him and NASCAR should do something. I wonder if we'll see any fallout from that on Sunday.
You never know right now, but a lot of times Kevin Harvick's been accused of being an aggressive driver, and that's what happened.
Nice to have you along here on FX. The drivers and you are back in town at Daytona.
We're going to 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3.
The Speedway.
The boys are back in town. The boys are back in town. Oh, yeah.
Hey, Ben, if I leave something sitting out here.